The earth beneath you is older than memory, older than language, older than anything human hands have ever touched. Every stone has been shaped by patience. Every mountain is a slow breath rising toward the sky. And tonight, we'll wander gently into the quiet geology of our planet, where even time seems to soften around the edges. Welcome to AstraFlow. Here, science drifts like starlight, and curiosity becomes calm. Tonight, let your thoughts slow down, your breathing find its rhythm, and your mind float through wonder. Before we begin, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Are you lying in bed under city lights, or watching the stars from somewhere quiet? Tell me in the comments. It's always peaceful to imagine the AstraFlow community scattered across the world, drifting together through the same sky. And if this calm journey brings you peace, you can gently support AstraFlow by liking this video or subscribing. It helps this little corner of the cosmos keep glowing. Now, let's begin tonight's voyage into the quiet story of peaceful geology. A story told not in words but in layers of sand, in silent crystals growing in darkness, in continents gliding like slow dreams across the surface of the world. As you settle in, feel your body soften, as if you're placing yourself gently into the Earth's long memory. Let the weight of your day melt the way mountains melt into rivers of sand over ages. Let each breath come a little easier, a little slower, as though it's following the rhythm of something ancient and steady deep below your feet, because geology is the art of slowness. It's the story of a world that moves in patient intervals, a world that changes so gently we barely see it, yet so profoundly that everything we know has been shaped by its quiet persistence. Tonight, we'll drift through the planet's calmest truths, bedrock that holds the Earth steady, minerals glowing softly beneath the crust, glaciers moving like sleeping giants, and the silent hum that vibrates through the ground, steady as a heartbeat. And as we explore these peaceful facts, you may notice your own breathing beginning to match the slow, grounding rhythm of the Earth itself. There's something comforting about knowing that beneath every step you've ever taken lies a story billions of years long, patient, gentle, unhurried, a story that continues whether you're awake or drifting into sleep, so let your thoughts grow lighter. Let your eyelids soften, let the noise of the world fade into the quiet shift of stone becoming sand, sand becoming rock, and rock becoming mountains again. You are safe here, wrapped in the calm of deep time, and as the Earth takes its next slow breath, we begin our journey. What does it mean to live on a planet that measures its life in millions of years, while we measure ours in mornings and evenings? It's a gentle question, but it carries a quiet weight, a reminder that the ground beneath us moves on a scale so slow, so patient, that it's almost beyond imagination. When we look at a mountain, we see something solid, unmoving, permanent. But the Earth sees a moment. A mountain rises and erodes the way a wave forms and dissolves, just stretched out across ages so long that the human mind can barely hold them. And in that contrast, between our brief, flickering lives and the planet's deep, unhurried time, there is something unexpectedly peaceful. We spend our days rushing, solving, responding. The Earth spends its time growing crystals in the dark, folding layers of stone, drifting continents a few centimeters each year, reshaping itself with the patience of quiet breathing. Sometimes, when we pause long enough to notice it, we can almost feel the difference. Our time is sharp. Earth's time is soft. Our time moves with urgency. Earth's time moves with weight. Our time changes us quickly. Earth's time changes everything slowly, gracefully, without noise. And yet we live together. Our small moments resting atop the planet's vast timeline like gentle footprints on ancient stone. It makes you wonder, if the Earth is always moving, even when we can't feel it. What else is unfolding quietly around us? How many changes are happening slowly enough that they appear still? How many transformations are so patient we mistake them for silence? Perhaps every rock you've ever touched, every smooth pebble, every line on a cliff face, every grain of sand beneath your feet began somewhere else, carried across time, carved by wind, lifted by tectonic breath, polished by waves that existed long before you were born. Deep time invites us to imagine this world not as a static place, but as something always flowing, always shifting, always becoming. It reminds us that everything familiar, hills, valleys, shorelines, soil, mountains, is part of a story older than language, older than thought, a calm story, a slow one. And when you let that idea settle in your mind, something soft happens inside you. You begin to feel less pressure to move quickly, less weight in each passing hour. You begin to sense that maybe there is no need to rush when you live on a world that takes millions of years to craft a single landscape. Maybe rest is natural, maybe slowness is not a flaw, but a truth written into the planet itself. Deep time also brings a quiet comfort. The earth does not demand anything from you. It simply holds you. It lets you walk, breathe, rest, sleep. It changes at a pace that asks nothing of your pace. It invites you to exist gently, to live your brief moment with softness, knowing you are supported by something far older and steadier than anything you'll ever face. And perhaps that is the question behind all geology. What does it mean to be small in a vast, calm world? Not insignificant, but comfortingly light, like a drifting leaf on a slow, ancient river of stone. A river that will keep flowing long after you close your eyes tonight. Geology is, at its heart, the slow autobiography of our planet. A story written not in ink, but in minerals, pressure, silence, and time. When we study rocks, we're not just learning about the Earth. We're reading its memories, each layer a soft echo of something that once happened long before humans took their first breath. And the remarkable thing is how gentle these stories are. The Earth doesn't shout its history. It whispers it through patterns in stone, through crystals growing in darkness, through cliffs layered like folded blankets of time. When you hold a rock, even a small one, you're holding a piece of the planet's quiet voice. You're holding something that has taken millions of years to become what it is, shaped by forces so patient that they almost feel like stillness. This slowness is what gives geology its meditative beauty. Mountains rise not with violence, but with steady uplift as tectonic plates nudge and lean into one another. Valleys form as rivers trace the same path for centuries, carving deeper with each pass the way a soft fingertip can eventually smooth a piece of wood. Crystals form atom by atom, arranging themselves into perfect geometry inside warm, silent chambers beneath our feet. Even dramatic features like volcanoes or earthquakes belong to cycles that stretch across gigantic spans of time. Cycles that begin and end with long periods of calm. The Earth's crust behaves like a slow ocean of rock, flowing so gradually that we mistake it for permanence, but always shifting, always adjusting, breathing in geological rhythm. And beneath that crust is a world of gentle heat, a slow glow from deep within the mantle that reminds us the planet is quietly alive. If you could zoom out far enough in time, not in space, but across millions of years, you would see continents drifting like floating rafts, mountains rising like slow dreams, seas forming and disappearing like passing weather. Everything would seem fluid, graceful, almost sleepy. That is the secret of geology. The Earth moves, but it moves at a pace that calms the mind. It transforms, but it transforms in ways that soften the heart. It reminds us that change does not always have to be fast to be meaningful. In fact, some of the most powerful changes in the universe happen quietly. When you look at a cliff face, you're seeing a vertical timeline, each layer a chapter, each colour a shift in climate, each ripple a memory of a long-forgotten sea. When you walk across a field full of smooth stones, you're stepping on fragments of mountains that once towered above the clouds. Even the soil that grows our food began as stone slowly breaking down into life-supporting grains. Everything in the landscape is a product of slow care. The earth shapes itself the way an artist shapes clay, but in a studio lit by deep time instead of sunlight. And the more we learn about geology, the more we realise that our world is not static or cold. It is gentle, it is patient, it is endlessly creative, and it invites us to soften with it, to breathe with it, to move, slowly, within its quiet story. Beneath every step you take lies a foundation older than any tree, river, or coastline you've ever seen. Bedrock, the solid, ancient crust of the earth, sits quietly beneath layers of soil, sand, and sediment, carrying the weight of mountains and the footprints of passing lives without complaint or hurry. It does not move in ways we notice. It does not rise or fall within the span of a human lifetime. Instead, it exists like a silent companion, a steady presence beneath all the motion and noise of the surface world. To imagine bedrock is to imagine stillness in its purest form. Picture a vast expanse of stone stretching beneath forests, cities, oceans, deserts. An unbroken platform of calm that has endured billions of sunrises and sunsets. Long before there were houses or roads or fields, long before humans shaped anything, bedrock formed the quiet backbone of the planet. Pressures deep within the earth fused minerals together, creating dense, unyielding layers that would one day hold entire continents steady. And yet, despite this immense strength, there is nothing harsh about bedrock's presence. It supports without asking for attention. It allows everything above it to change. Weather shifts, rivers wander, seasons turn, while it remains a patient observer of time itself. There is something deeply comforting in knowing that beneath us lies this gentle anchor, a kind of planetary heartbeat, slowed almost to stillness. If you could sit in absolute silence underground, surrounded by bedrock, you would hear nothing but your own breath. The stone would not tremble or strain. It would simply be, existing with an ease that invites your own thoughts to quiet down. The Earth's crust may shift slowly over ages, but bedrock itself feels timeless, not because it never changes, but because it changes so gradually that no single moment reveals the transformation. Over millions of years, pressure can fold it, heat can melt it, water can carve it. Yet each of these processes happens at a pace so gentle, it becomes a form of geological meditation. Bedrock teaches us, without words, that stability doesn't mean immobility. It means enduring change so gradually that the overall shape remains familiar, dependable. In a world that moves faster each day, bedrock reminds us that the deepest forms of strength are often the quietest. Even its texture tells a story of calm. Some bedrock is smooth from ancient glacial polishing. Some is rough, fractured by slow tectonic uplift. Some holds minerals that sparkle faintly when light finally reaches them. All of it is patient. All of it is the earth expressing steadiness through stone. When you lie down at night, perhaps you don't think about the rock far below your mattress, your floor, the soil underneath. But it is there, holding you, supporting the life you live. You're always being carried by the planet's most ancient layer. And imagining this deep, unhurried presence beneath you, often brings a sense of grounding that relaxes the body. Knowing that the Earth's foundation is calm helps your own foundation soften too. It becomes easier to breathe a little deeper, rest a little longer, drift a little quieter. Because beneath all your motion and thoughts, beneath all your plans and memories, there is always something steady supporting you, as ancient and peaceful as the bedrock itself. If you were to slice gently through the Earth's surface, you would find that the planet keeps its memories stacked in layers, like pages of a book written over millions of years. Sedimentary layers form wherever sand, dust, shells, and tiny fragments of life settle slowly, one atop another, pressing themselves into soft bands of colour. Each layer is a quiet chapter. Each stripe in a cliff face is a sentence written by wind, water, or drifting particles that fell like silent snow across ages. And when you look at those layers, whether in a canyon wall glowing under late sunlight, or in a small stone broken open by chance, you're seeing the Earth's diary laid out in stillness. Nothing in these layers rushes. Nothing demands to be noticed. The story unfolds slowly, grain by grain, until what was once loose sediment becomes a solid memory. It is one of geology's gentlest truths. The planet builds its history the way a person builds sleep, slowly, softly, letting things settle. Imagine watching a lake thousands of years ago, leaves drifting to the bottom, fine dust settling during quiet seasons, tiny shells falling when life blooms and fades. Each of those moments becomes a thin, delicate line in rock. One line might represent a golden era of calm water, another might hold the ashes of a distant volcanic breath, another might capture a time when the climate grew cooler, or warmer, or wetter, and the land responded in its own quiet rhythm. Over millions of years, these layers accumulate into cliffs, canyons, hills, and plateaus, landscapes made not through sudden force, but through the slow accumulation of peaceful moments. When you stand before a canyon wall, you are not simply looking at rock, you are looking at stacked lifetimes, entire ocean floors turned into stone, riverbeds pressed into firmness, wind-blown dunes held still in time. Even the colours tell stories, red layers rich with iron, pale layers made of ancient shells, dark layers born from organic decay. Each hue is a whisper from a world that once was, and yet for all their age, sedimentary layers feel gentle. Their lines are soft, almost soothing to trace with your eyes. They resemble the rings of a tree, the strokes of an artist's brush, the soft folds of fabric. They remind us that the Earth, even when shaping continents, works with a calmness that encourages us to slow down too. There is comfort in knowing that something as vast as a canyon can form from simple things settling quietly in place. It suggests that even small moments, a speck of sand, a ripple in shallow water, a single fallen leaf, can become part of something enduring if given time. And perhaps that is why these layers feel peaceful to look at. They show us that life doesn't need to rush to leave a legacy, that softness, repetition, and patience can create something beautiful. Late at night, when your breathing slows and the world around you quiets, you can imagine those layers beneath the surface, long bands of stone resting in silence, holding millions of years without strain. You can picture yourself resting just as they do, letting the moments of your day settle gently into place, forming the soft layers of your own experience. Nothing forced, nothing hurried, just one calm breath atop another, settling into a peaceful night. If you could rise far above the Earth and watch the continents over millions of years, you would see something completely different from the world you know. The shapes of the continents would shift like slow clouds of stone, drifting across the surface of the planet with the grace of giant rafts floating on a molten sea. And yet, despite this enormous motion, the movement itself is unbelievably gentle, only a few centimetres a year, slower than your fingernails grow. This is the quiet dance of plate tectonics, the Earth's most patient choreography. The continents you recognise today, Asia, Africa, the Americas, Europe, Australia, were once arranged differently, connected in great supercontinents that came together and pulled apart over hundreds of millions of years. They will rearrange themselves again long after our time has passed, continuing a cycle that has unfolded since the Earth first cooled. But the beauty of this process lies not in the scale, but in the slowness. Nothing about it is rushed. The plates beneath your feet glide like drifting ice, guided by deep currents of heat inside the mantle. They collide with such patience that mountains rise in near imperceptible increments. They separate so gradually that oceans form one slow ripple at a time. They slide sideways with a quiet persistence that shapes entire coastlines over ages. And what feels still to us, continents that seem solid, unmoving, is actually a world in motion, just moving at a pace so steady it becomes invisible. When you imagine these plates drifting, you might picture them as vast puzzle pieces, touching and separating, shaping landscapes with soft determination. A mountain range begins not with a dramatic upheaval, but with two plates pressing gently, century after century, until rock folds upward like fabric slowly creased by time. A deep ocean basin forms not from a sudden drop, but from the gradual pulling apart of the crust, which thins and sags, inviting water in over millions of seasons. Even earthquakes, which feel sudden to us, are merely brief releases in a long, continuous process, like a tiny exhale in a much larger breath. There is something strangely comforting about this. To live on a world that moves so slowly is to be reminded that movement does not always mean haste, that progress does not always mean speed, that even the largest changes can unfold in the softest ways. The Earth teaches us this through the continents themselves, that you can shift, grow, transform, and become something new without rushing. That sometimes the most profound changes in life happen quietly, beneath the surface, over long stretches of time. If you close your eyes and imagine the continents drifting, imagine them gliding, not with force, but with an almost sleepy elegance, you might notice your own breath slowing to match the rhythm. A breath that moves gently outward, then inward. A life that unfolds day by day. A body that changes softly through the years. The continents remind us that everything flows, not always quickly, but always steadily. That even in stillness there is motion, and even in motion there can be deep peace. As you rest tonight, the ground beneath you is drifting ever so slightly, carrying you along on this slow planetary journey. You won't feel it. You're not meant to. But knowing it, sensing the subtle flow of the world, might help your thoughts drift too, gently towards sleep. Deep beneath the surface, where sunlight never reaches and silence feels almost physical, minerals grow in darkness with a quiet beauty that few ever witness. They form slowly, impossibly slowly, as atoms settle into orderly patterns, building themselves into crystals with a patience that feels almost otherworldly. In the stillness of those underground chambers, minerals aren't rushed by wind or water or weather. They take their time, arranging themselves one particle at a time, creating colours and structures that seem too delicate and perfect to have emerged from stone. Some minerals shimmer softly when light finally touches them, glowing as if they've been storing quiet for millions of years. Others remain matte and muted, carrying a calm strength in their solid forms, and even the dullest minerals, when held up to the right light, reveal subtle sparkles, faint reflections that feel like small breaths of the earth itself. There is something deeply peaceful about imagining how they form. Heat rises from the mantle. Pressure builds in silent pockets. Water-carrying dissolved minerals seeps into cracks and empty spaces. And in that unseen environment, crystals begin to grow, not quickly, not urgently, just steadily, arranging themselves into geometry that repeats with hypnotic precision. Nature seems to enjoy symmetry. Even in darkness, it creates beauty. Minerals are like the Earth's quiet artwork, sculptures carved by time instead of hands, shaped by temperature and chemistry instead of intention. Quartz grows as clear as frozen breath, Amethyst gathers a purple hue as iron and radiation work slowly through the crystal lattice. Calcite forms soft, glowing rhombs that seem to hold candlelight inside their pale bodies. Each mineral has its own personality. Some are cool and glassy, some are warm and earthy, some sparkle with tiny flecks like captured stars. Some glow gently under ultraviolet light, revealing colours the human eye never sees in daylight. But all of them share one thing. They grow with absolute calm. No rushing, no forcing, no noise, just slow, steady becoming. When you picture these minerals forming, in pockets beneath mountains, in crevices deep below forests, in ancient lava tubes beneath oceans, you may feel your mind begin to settle the same way the atoms do, slowly, softly, falling into place. Minerals remind us that beauty doesn't always appear suddenly. Sometimes it grows in darkness, out of sight, becoming something luminous long before anyone notices. There is meaning in that. A gentle message that it's okay to take time, that it's okay to grow quietly, that it's okay to become yourself slowly, without rushing the shape you're meant to form. Many minerals form under conditions that seem harsh. Intense pressure, deep heat, heavy weight from layers above. Yet the result is often graceful, delicate, shimmering with inner clarity. A reminder that even under pressure, something beautiful can emerge. As you rest tonight, imagine those crystals in the dark. Their edges forming molecule by molecule, slow enough to be calming, steady enough to be comforting. Imagine their soft glow waiting for the right moment to be seen, and allow yourself to feel that same quiet glow settling in your chest, warm and gentle as your thoughts begin to drift. Because just like minerals, you're allowed to grow slowly, beautifully, and in your own time. There is a certain reassurance that comes from stone, a quiet steadiness, a sense that no matter what shifts around us, the earth beneath remains calm. When you look at a boulder resting in a field, or an old stone wall softened by moss, or a cliff face that has watched centuries pass, you're witnessing the planet's natural expression of stability. Stone doesn't hurry. It doesn't chase or resist change. It simply endures, weathering whatever comes with a patience that feels almost protective. In a world filled with movement, flowing rivers, drifting clouds, shifting seasons, rushing days, stone stands as a reminder that stillness has its own strength. Imagine placing your palm against a cool rock. The surface doesn't lean or press back. It simply offers its presence. It has been shaped by rain, wind, time, and yet it remains solid. A piece of the planet offering you something steady to hold on to. And that steadiness is not rigid or harsh. It's soft in its constancy, like a long exhale held over centuries. Even the strongest stones began as minerals arranged quietly beneath the Earth's crust, forming slowly under pressure and heat before rising toward the sky. When they finally emerge at the surface, they greet wind and water the way a tree greets the breeze, without resistance, simply allowing nature to unfold around them. Over ages, stone becomes smooth, edges soften, surfaces polish, patterns emerge. Time transforms stone not through force, but through gentle, repetitive contact. This slow shaping creates the calm beauty we often see in rock formations, the graceful curve of an eroded canyon, the rounded forms of river stones, the balanced stillness of standing cliffs. Stone teaches us that stability doesn't mean nothing ever changes. It means change happens slowly enough to remain peaceful. The world may shift, but stability can exist in the midst of motion. Sometimes, when life feels busy or overwhelming, imagining stone can bring a quiet ease to the mind. Picture a mountain that has watched storms, winds, and seasons roll across its slopes. It doesn't tense when the weather changes. It doesn't worry about tomorrow. It simply exists, grounded in its own presence. Or think of a single rock sitting beside a trail, warmed by sunlight during the day and cooled by night air. It has no urgency, no rush, no expectation. It's a piece of the earth offering a moment of calm to anyone who cares to look. We often forget that beneath every structure we build, every path we walk, every stretch of soil and grass, there is stone supporting everything. And even deeper beneath that stone is more stone, extending down into layers that have held this world steady, long before humans learn to speak. That foundation is always there, even when we don't feel it. The comfort of stone stability is the comfort of knowing the ground won't slip away. It's the reassurance that something ancient is supporting your every step, something patient, unhurried, and quietly strong. As you lie here now, letting your breath slow and your mind soften, imagine all the layers beneath you. Soil, then rock, then deeper rock, all the way down to the earth's silent foundation. Imagine that foundation holding you gently, like a steady hand beneath your thoughts. Let that sense of support settle into your body. Let it remind you that it's safe to rest, safe to be still, safe to let go. Because the earth is holding you the way it has held life for billions of years, calmly, quietly, and with unwavering stability. When you hold a fossil in your hand, you're holding a moment that refused to disappear, a quiet imprint of a life that once moved, breathed, floated, crawled, or swayed in ancient winds. Fossils are time capsules in their gentlest form. They are memories the earth chose to preserve, not through intention, but through the slow kindness of sediment and stone. A leaf that settled onto soft mud and left behind its delicate veins. A shell resting on the floor of a shallow sea, later wrapped in layers of sand that hardened into rock. The imprint of a small creature's footprint, pressed into wet ground millions of years before any human foot touched the earth. Fossils remind us that even the smallest lives matter enough to be remembered. They whisper stories of oceans that no longer exist, forests that shifted continents ago, and animals whose names we will never know, though their shapes linger in stone. And the way fossils form is as peaceful as their presence. A creature passes, it settles into sediment. Layers build above it gently year after year. No rush, no force, just the soft accumulation of the Earth's quiet processes. Minerals move through groundwater and begin to replace the original tissue, molecule by molecule, until what was once bone or leaf or shell becomes stone, a perfect replica, transformed with a patience only deep time can offer. The result is something both delicate and enduring. Some fossils preserve even the tiniest details, the curve of a rib, the texture of a feather, the pattern of ancient bark. Others are simple silhouettes, soft shapes pressed like fingerprints into the planet's slowly turning pages. And they all carry the same quiet message. Life leaves traces. Even when time tries to erase them, some traces remain. That is part of what makes fossils so calming to imagine. They hold stillness. A stillness that once belonged to motion, a stillness that preserves a moment from long before humans opened their eyes to the world. When you think of fossils, you might imagine vast deserts where dinosaur bones sleep beneath shifting dunes, or cliffs where seashells cling to stone thousands of miles from any ocean. But fossils exist almost everywhere. In riverbeds, in quiet valleys, in mountain ranges lifted from ancient seabeds. The Earth has been saving memories for billions of years. Some fossils tell dramatic stories of predators, storms, migrations, extinctions. But many tell gentle ones, the daily life of a creature walking along a shore, a fern unfurling in warm sunlight, a fish drifting near a sandy bottom. These small moments, preserved by chance, are reminders that the world has always held ordinary beauty. The kind of beauty we often overlook, and perhaps that is why fossils feel so peaceful when you imagine them resting quietly in stone. They survived unimaginable stretches of time, they endured heat, pressure, and the slow tectonic breathing of the earth, and through all of it, they remained still, waiting for someone to notice. Tonight, as your thoughts begin to quiet, imagine a fossil deep within a cliff wall, unchanged, unhurried, simply holding its shape across millions of years. Imagine that level of patience. Imagine that level of calm, and let it settle into your own rhythm. Because fossils teach us that even when life moves on, its gentle marks remain. And in that way, we are all connected to the deep, soft memory of the earth, far beneath the surface where daylight never wanders and sound seems to dissolve into the air. Caves open like quiet cathedrals carved by the earth's slow imagination. They are some of the calmest places on the planet, deep chambers where stone walls curve like the inside of a sleeping giant's breath, where water drips with a rhythm so steady it feels like a heartbeat slowed to its gentlest tempo. When you step into a cave, the world above fades almost instantly. The noise softens, the air cools, time stretches out. You become aware, not of motion, but of stillness. The kind of stillness that has existed for thousands, sometimes millions, of years. The rocks are not silent because nothing is happening. They are silent because everything is happening so slowly it becomes a form of peace. Caves are born from water that moves with patience, flowing through tiny cracks, dissolving limestone grain by grain. Over ages, these small paths widen into tunnels, and tunnels widen into halls. What begins as a droplet eventually creates cathedrals large enough to swallow light. It is one of geology's gentlest lessons. Even the softest touch, repeated over time, can create something extraordinary. Inside these chambers, stalactites hang from the ceiling like stone icicles, formed from minerals left behind by dripping water. Stalagmites rise from the floor with equal patience, growing upward, millimetre by millimetre, toward their hanging twins. Sometimes the two meet, forming elegant stone pillars that look like columns in an ancient temple. They take thousands of years to grow just a few centimetres, yet they never stop. Their shapes vary, smooth, ribbed, twisted, glassy. Each one a sculpture shaped by nothing more than water, minerals, and time. If you listen closely, caves have a sound, a soft echo, a delicate tapping, the tiny splash of droplets falling from heights. These sounds repeat slowly and endlessly, creating a rhythm that feels almost like natural meditation. The darkness, too, carries its own calm. It isn't a harsh absence of light, but a gentle fullness, like velvet wrapped around stone. Creatures that live in caves adapt by letting go of what they no longer need. Colour, eyesight, speed, and embracing quiet forms of existence. They drift, crawl, or rest in a world without urgency. And perhaps that is why caves feel so peaceful. Everything inside them is surrendered to slowness. Nothing rushes, nothing fights. Even the air stands almost completely still, moving in soft currents shaped by temperature and depth. When you imagine a cave, imagine the coolness settling around your skin. Imagine the stone arching overhead like a protective canopy. Imagine your footsteps echoing softly in vast chambers that have waited ages to be heard. Picture the steady drip of water tracing paths that will one day become new formations, new patterns, new shapes of calm carved into stone. Caves remind us that the world is always shaping itself quietly, that even in darkness, beauty is growing, forming, emerging in its own time. They invite us to slow our thoughts to match their pace, to let stillness become a form of comfort rather than emptiness. Tonight, as you rest, let your mind wander into a vast cavern lit only by imagination. Let the stone walls surround you with their ancient calm. Let the soft sounds of dripping water echo in the background of your thoughts. And let yourself feel held in the quiet, as though the earth has made a sanctuary just for your breath. When you stand on a beach and let the sand slip through your fingers, you're touching the remains of ancient mountains, towering peaks that once rose toward the sky, now softened into countless tiny grains. Sand is stone made gentle. It's geology transformed into something you can hold, something warm, something that moves like water when the wind brushes across it. To understand sand is to understand one of the Earth's softest processes, the slow breathing of mountains as they weather, crumble, and drift toward the sea. A single grain might have begun its life locked deep within a granite cliff surrounded by intense pressure and heat. Over millions of years, the elements began their quiet work. Rain slipped into cracks, expanding as it froze. Wind polished exposed surfaces. Rivers carried fragments downhill. Each touch was small, each step gentle, but together they softened what once seemed unshakable. Eventually the stone surrendered to patience, breaking into pieces small enough to be carried far from where it began. And piece by piece, fragment by fragment, mountain by mountain, the earth exhaled into sand. There's a peacefulness to this transformation. Nothing rushed, nothing shattered in a single moment. It was a long conversation between stone and time, one that resulted in something as delicate as the grains beneath your feet. When you walk across sand dunes, you're walking across memories of peaks that stood in ancient sunlight. When you feel warm sand beneath your hands, you're touching Earth's patient art. And when waves pull sand back into the ocean, they're returning those memories to the planet's larger cycle, where they will drift, settle, compact, and eventually turn back into stone once more. Sand is the Earth's way of breathing. Mountains inhaling as they rise, exhaling as they erode. The dunes themselves move with the same quiet grace, shifting slowly across deserts like waves frozen in slow motion. A dune can travel inches in a year, or sometimes a little more, as wind carries grains from one crest to another. But the dunes do not fight this movement. They flow. They reshape themselves constantly, accepting change not as disruption, but as part of their nature. Imagine lying on warm sand as the sun sets. You feel the grains adjusting beneath your weight, supporting you while remaining soft. You hear the faint hiss of wind flowing across the surface. You sense the warmth lingering from the day. In that moment, the sand feels almost alive, not because it moves quickly, but because it moves gently, endlessly, following forces too subtle to see. Even the colours of sand tell quiet stories. Pale sands made from coral and shells, golden sands born from quartz-rich mountains, black sands shaped by volcanic origins, pink sands tinted by iron, white sands that glisten like powdered light, each hue a whisper from landscapes far away, carried across time and tide. And perhaps the most calming truth about sand is this: no matter how much it shifts, it always returns to balance. Waves drag it away, tides bring it back, wind moves it across plains, gravity settles it again. Sand teaches us that even when life scatters us for a while, we can find our way back to softness, back to center, back to rest. Tonight, as you breathe slowly, imagine those grains, countless tiny pieces of ancient rock, drifting gently in rhythm with the wind. Imagine their endless patience, their quiet endurance, their softness born from strength. Let that same softness settle into your thoughts, turning whatever feels heavy into something light enough to drift. A river may look delicate on the surface, gliding quietly over stones and sand, but its true power lies in its patience. No matter how soft its current feels, a river can carve valleys, shape canyons, and transform entire landscapes, not through force, but through steady, continuous touch. Water does not need to rush to leave an impression. It simply needs to return again and again, letting time do the heavy lifting. When you picture a river flowing through a quiet forest or over smooth stones in a mountain stream, you're seeing one of the Earth's calmest sculptors at work. Every ripple, every curl of motion, every gentle push of water against rock carries a memory of what came before and a hint of what will come next. The river is always moving, yet never in haste. It knows that progress made slowly can be deeper and more lasting than anything done quickly. Imagine a single drop of water sliding against a stone. It seems impossibly small, incapable of change. But multiply that drop by millions, by billions, by countless cycles of rain and melt and seasonal flow, and you begin to understand how rivers carve with a kind of soft determination. A drop becomes a trickle becomes a stream becomes a river, and that river, given enough time, becomes an architect of canyons that stretch for miles, their walls marked with layers of ancient sediment exposed by the river's gentle persistence. The Grand Canyon itself, one of the most awe-inspiring landscapes on Earth, was shaped not by violence, but by the steady, unhurried flow of water. The Colorado River didn't force its way downward. It followed its path, season after season, letting gravity guide its movement. Over millions of years, the river simply continued, moving forward, carrying sediments away, deepening the channel bit by bit. And through that patient process, a masterpiece emerged. Even the smallest rivers carry this same quiet power. A narrow mountain stream, barely wider than your arms, can smooth sharp rocks into round, soft pebbles. A shallow riverbed can polish stones into shimmering surfaces that feel cool beneath your feet. Water doesn't need strength to reshape the world. It needs consistency. There is a comfort in knowing that something as gentle as a river can carve something as grand as a canyon. It reminds us that persistence doesn't have to be forceful, that progress can be made through softness, that change can happen without urgency. You may have noticed how the sound of a river calms the mind, a constant murmur, a soothing repetition, a natural lullaby shaped by motion. That sound is water brushing over surfaces, slipping through narrow passages, circling stones, smoothing edges. It is persistence made musical. When you close your eyes and imagine following a river's path, you might picture the way it twists, bends, and meanders. Rivers rarely flow in straight lines. They wander, they curve around obstacles. They take the easiest route available, not out of laziness, but out of wisdom, because nature understands that peace often lies in choosing the softer path. And yet, even in its softness, the river reaches its destination. Always. Tonight, as your thoughts begin to drift, imagine a river moving slowly through a quiet valley. Picture its surface catching the faintest light. Feel the peace in its patient motion, and let that sense of gentle persistence flow through you, reminding you that you too can move forward softly, steadily, without rushing. When people think of volcanoes, they often imagine fire, eruption, and sudden force. Yet most of a volcano's life is defined not by chaos, but by quiet. A volcano spends the vast majority of its existence resting, gathering heat slowly beneath the surface, breathing in long geological intervals. What we usually remember are the rare moments of eruption, but the true nature of a volcano is calm, patient, and deeply rhythmic. Volcanoes are part of the Earth's internal cycle, created by the movement of tectonic plates and the gentle rise of molten rock from the mantle. But even that molten rock, or magma, ascends at an incredibly slow pace. It doesn't rush upward, it drifts. It rises because the Earth is always moving heat outward from its core, and that heat finds pathways through cracks and weak spots, inching upward over centuries. The magma chambers beneath volcanoes fill gradually like quiet reservoirs of warmth. Pressure accumulates atom by atom, mineral by mineral, so slowly that forests grow, seasons pass, and civilizations rise and fall without the mountain releasing a single plume of smoke. For every eruption that lasts a few hours or days, there are centuries of peace, centuries in which a volcano stands silently under starlit skies, its slopes covered in moss, plants, and drifting clouds. Even when an eruption does occur, it is not the volcano losing control. It is the earth completing a cycle, a release, a long exhale after a long inhale. The energy that builds beneath the surface must one day find balance, and that balance sometimes takes the form of fire meeting air. But afterward, the volcano returns to rest. It cools, it rebuilds, it becomes quiet again, often for generations. Many volcanoes appear serene even after eruptions. New land is created, soil enriched, ecosystems reborn. Entire islands emerge from the repeated volcanic cycles, rising from the sea as if the earth is sculpting its own canvases. In places like Hawaii or Iceland, volcanic activity is not a symbol of danger. It's a symbol of life. Warm ground welcomes seeds. Fresh lava fields slowly turn to fertile soil. Springs bubble with mineral-rich water. Entire landscapes bloom in the wake of volcanic renewal. It is nature's gentle way of reminding us that destruction and creation can be part of the same flow, that endings can lead to beginnings just as night leads to day. And the shapes of volcanoes themselves reflect calm after calm. The soft curve of shield volcanoes, the symmetrical rise of stratovolcanoes, the broad, quiet presence of ancient volcanic fields long cooled into rolling hills. If you stand on the slope of a dormant volcano, you don't feel tension, you feel steadiness, warmth beneath the ground, and a sense that the earth is holding something deep within itself, something measured and slow. There is peace in that slowness. Volcano cycles mirror the rhythms of our own lives more than we might expect. We build pressure sometimes, thoughts, emotions, worries, and we release them when we need to, not constantly, not violently, but in our own rhythms. Afterward we return to quiet, we settle, we rebuild, we renew. Tonight, imagine a volcano resting under a sky full of stars. Imagine the warmth beneath its surface, slow, gentle, pulsing like a sleeping heartbeat. Imagine the calm that defines most of its existence. Let that image remind you that strength doesn't always look explosive. Sometimes it looks like deep patience. Sometimes it looks like heat held softly. Sometimes it looks like knowing when to release and when to rest. A glacier moves so slowly that to the human eye it seems completely still, like a frozen river locked forever in place. But if you could watch it over decades, or centuries, or the full quiet sweep of geological time, you would see it flowing, not with the rush of water, but with the measured grace of something patient enough to ignore the hurry of seasons. Glaciers are the Earth's slowest travellers, carrying entire landscapes with them as they glide inch by inch across valleys and mountainsides. Their journey begins with nothing more dramatic than snow. Snow that falls gently, winter after winter, layering itself into soft blankets. Each layer compresses slightly beneath the weight of the next until the snow becomes firn, and firn becomes ice, dense, blue-tinted ice that holds tiny bubbles of ancient air inside. This transformation alone can take centuries, and yet the glacier is in no rush. It forms quietly, steadily, like an exhale frozen into shape. Once the glacier becomes heavy enough, gravity pulls it forward. But this movement isn't like water tumbling downhill. It is slow, deliberate, more like a planet shifting than a river flowing. The ice at the bottom deforms under pressure, allowing the glacier to creep forward in steady silence. Rocks embedded in the ice carve long, smooth grooves into the mountains. Valleys widen, hills round, cliffs soften. The glacier shapes the land the way a sculptor shapes clay, with pressure and intention, though here the intention is simply time itself. The beauty of a glacier comes not only from its immense presence, but from its stillness. When you stand before one, the air is cooler, quieter, almost held in place. The ice glows faintly where sunlight touches it, revealing shades of blue that seem borrowed from the deep ocean. Cracks on the surface create gentle echoes when they shift, like slow-motion sighs from the frozen world. In these frozen rivers, time feels thick, stretched, softened. Glaciers don't push against the world, they yield to it, adjusting their flow to the shape of the land. They follow the contours of mountains and valleys, choosing the easiest path without ever rushing down it. Their patience is their power, and when glaciers melt, whether through natural cycles or warmer climates, they release pure, ancient water that has been locked away for thousands of years. This water fills lakes, nourishes rivers, and feeds entire ecosystems. Even in their retreat, glaciers give life. They remind us that endings, when paced gently, can still offer renewal. Many of the world's most peaceful landscapes were shaped by glaciers long gone. Rounded hills, carved basins, scattered boulders left behind like forgotten footprints. These features hold the memory of ice that once moved over them. Ice that carried mountains on its back and left the world gentler in its wake. There is something deeply calming about imagining a force so powerful yet so unhurried. A glacier proves that strength doesn't need speed, that progress can be measured in inches, not miles, that steady movement, no matter how slow, can transform even the hardest stone. Tonight, as your breathing settles into its own slow rhythm, imagine the peaceful drift of a glacier, cool air, deep blue ice, the soft pressure of time shaping the land. Let that image remind you that you're allowed to move at your own pace. You're allowed to take your time. You're allowed to let change come gently, like a glacier flowing quietly through a valley of stone, deep within the earth, where sunlight has never touched and silence becomes almost absolute. Pressure works with a patience that reshapes matter itself. It does not crush suddenly or forcefully. Instead, it builds slowly, grain by grain, layer by layer, over millions of years. A quiet weight that encourages atoms to rearrange, minerals to transform, and stones to become something entirely new. This gentle but persistent force is what creates metamorphic rock. Not through violence, but through a long conversation between heat, pressure, and time. Imagine a piece of rock buried beneath thousands of meters of sediment. At first, it is unchanged, the same as it was when it rested on the surface. But as more layers settle above it, the weight grows. Sediment becomes compacted, temperature rises, and little by little the minerals inside the rock begin to shift. Not break, not melt, just shift. They rearrange themselves into new patterns, guided by forces so steady they feel almost like the Earth's version of deep breathing. Over ages, limestone becomes marble, shale becomes slate, granite becomes gneiss with graceful bands and flowing patterns, like brushstrokes painted inside the stone. All of this happens silently, without drama, beneath our feet. Pressure, in geology, is not something to fear. It is something that gives shape. It is something that brings hidden beauty to the surface. When you look at a polished piece of marble, you are seeing the result of pressure applied so gently over so long a time that the rock had no choice but to transform into something new. When you see the folds inside metamorphic cliffs, sweeping waves frozen in stone, you're seeing the Earth's slow response to being pressed, lifted, and compressed across unimaginable spans of time. And even though these rocks now appear solid and still, their appearance is the result of motion. Their patterns reflect the flow of energy, warmth, and weight deep in the crust. There is a universal comfort in this idea, that pressure, when applied steadily and naturally, can create beauty instead of destruction. Humans experience pressure in emotional ways, responsibilities, expectations, worries, and it often feels heavy. But the Earth reminds us that pressure doesn't always break things. Sometimes it reshapes them. Sometimes it brings out patterns that were always waiting beneath the surface. Sometimes it reveals strength we didn't know was there. Geological pressure is patient. It doesn't demand immediate change. It allows transformation to happen at the right pace. It works with the material, not against it. And perhaps that is why imagining the quiet weight of the Earth can be so calming. It's a reminder that you too can change slowly, that you can allow time and experience to shape you without rushing, that growth can happen beneath the surface long before it shows outwardly. Picture yourself lying deep underground, surrounded by warm stone. The weight above you is not frightening. It is steady, safe, grounding. It encourages you to sink deeper into rest, the way minerals sink into their new forms. The temperature is consistent. The darkness is peaceful. The world above drifts farther away until all that remains is this sense of gentle pressure, not as a burden, but as an embrace. Tonight, as your body softens and your mind begins to drift, imagine that quiet geological weight, patient, shaping, supporting you, guiding you toward a peaceful transformation of your own. Mountains look eternal, as if they were sculpted in an instant and set in place forever. But the truth is softer, slower, and far more comforting. Mountains rise the way dreams form, gradually, gently, almost imperceptibly, shaped by forces that move with the patience of deep time. What you see as a towering peak today once lay flat beneath ancient seas, hidden beneath layers of sediment, waiting for the quiet push of tectonic plates below. Two plates meet. They press toward each other, not violently but steadily, year after year, and in that slow embrace the crust begins to buckle. Rock folds upward, then upward again, inch by inch. Over millions of years, those tiny movements become something majestic, a mountain range sweeping across the horizon, its peaks worn smooth by wind, its valleys carved by ice and rain. But none of this happens fast. The Himalayas, the Rockies, the Andes, all of them are the result of countless small motions added together across ages so vast they make our own lifetimes feel like gentle sparks. To the mountain itself, 1,000,000 years is simply another chapter. To the Earth, a peak is a brief exhalation. Mountains rise not with noise, but with pressure applied so patiently that the rock flows like cold honey, folding into ridges and summits that seem frozen in time. And even once they stand tall beneath the sky, they continue to change. Wind brushes against their faces. Snow gathers in quiet layers. Rivers carve soft lines down their slopes. The mountains are always transforming, growing, eroding, breathing in geological rhythm, but so slowly that they remain symbols of stillness for us. There's something deeply soothing about imagining this process, something massive becoming itself with such calm intention, something rigid bending without breaking, something rooted in the deepest layers of the earth rising into the light with no rush, no force, no urgency. Mountains embody the idea that strength doesn't require speed. They show us that growth can be slow and yet profound, that transformation can be nearly invisible day by day but unmistakable over time. When you walk along a mountain trail, you might feel small, but in a comforting way. You become aware of how brief human worries are compared to the quiet life of stone. The mountain beneath your feet has survived storms, glaciers, and epochs. It has watched oceans come and go. It has held the sunrise for millions of mornings, and still it stands, solid and serene. Imagine standing on a ridge at dusk. The light softens, brushing golden hues across the peaks. The air grows cool, carrying the scent of pine and stone. The world becomes quiet except for a distant breeze. In that moment, the mountain feels alive, not in movement, but in presence, a presence that has endured long before you arrived and will endure long after you leave. That constancy can calm the mind. It reminds you that not everything in life needs to change quickly, that becoming who you are can be as slow and gentle as mountains rising from the deep. Tonight, as your breath slows, imagine yourself resting on a quiet mountainside. Imagine the ancient rock holding your weight effortlessly. Imagine its long, slow heartbeat beneath you, steady, patient, reassuring. Let that sense of unhurried strength settle into your body, reminding you that you too can rise like a slow dream, gradually, gently, in your own time. For all the earth's gentleness, for all its slow drifting plates and patiently rising mountains, there are rare moments when its long, quiet rhythms release a brief, concentrated exhale. Earthquakes are often remembered for their suddenness, but if you look deeper, they're only tiny, momentary notes within a vast, slow symphony. Most of a fault's life, nearly all of it, is defined by stillness. Tectonic plates press against each other with silent, constant pressure. The edges don't slide smoothly. They stick, held in place by friction as energy builds behind them, grain by grain. This build-up can last for decades, centuries, sometimes longer than entire civilizations, and in all that time, nothing seems to move. The ground beneath cities, forests, and oceans feels firm and unwavering. Life unfolds without any awareness of the tension deep below. Then one day, the fault slips, not out of violence, but out of inevitability. It is the earth releasing energy it has held for far too long. A sudden adjustment, a quick settling into a more comfortable position, an exhale after thousands of quiet inhales. To humans, that moment feels abrupt. But to the planet, it is just one small beat in a rhythm that spans millions of years, and after the slip, after the ground finds its new balance, the earth returns to stillness again. The long, patient accumulation begins anew. This perspective softens the way we think about earthquakes. They are not signs of instability. They are parts of a natural cycle that spends far more time in peace than in motion. Even their effects can carve beauty into the landscape. Fault lines create valleys where wildflowers bloom, cliffs where birds nest, springs where water finds its way to the surface. New pathways open, old layers reveal themselves. The earth, even in its brief moments of release, is always reshaping itself into something new. Think of a violin string pulled tighter and tighter until it finally vibrates. The vibration is sudden, but the tension that caused it was built slowly, quietly, patiently. When that string finally settles, it rests again. The earth does something similar, holding, adjusting, balancing. And like music, it continues. Even after major quakes, the planet spends the overwhelming majority of its time in silence, as calm as a held breath. When you imagine the ground beneath you, think not of sudden shifts, but of long spans of stillness. Think of the plates drifting centimetres each year, as gentle as a slow tide of stone. Think of the faults resting in quiet darkness, unmoving for generations. Think of the Earth's deep, grounding patience, always guiding itself back toward balance. And there is a lesson in this rhythm, a reminder that even sudden moments in life, moments that feel surprising or intense, are usually surrounded by far more quiet than disruption. That balance always returns. That stillness follows noise. That calm waits patiently beneath even the most unexpected events. Tonight, imagine the earth resting beneath you. Imagine the long silence of the tectonic plates, unmoving in the dark. Imagine how much calm exists compared to the rare, fleeting tremors. Let that sense of vast stillness reassure you. Your life, like the earth, has quiet foundations beneath any moment of tension, and ultimately everything settles again. Everything returns to balance. Everything moves back into the slow, peaceful rhythm of the world. Far beneath the rocky crust, Deeper than the tectonic plates that drift like slow clouds of stone, the Earth holds a secret rhythm, a soft, spiraling motion of molten metal. This flowing iron in the outer core creates the magnetic field, an invisible shield that wraps around the entire planet. And though we think of magnetism as stable, unchanging, quietly reliable, the truth is that Earth's magnetic field is always drifting, always adjusting, always shifting with a tenderness too subtle for us to feel. Unlike winds or waves or even the slow rise of mountains, the magnetic field has no sound, no colour, no texture. Yet it guides the migration of birds, shapes the glow of auroras, protects life from cosmic radiation, and influences the way particles move through the upper atmosphere. It is a presence you never notice, but one that is always there. A silent guardian created by motion deep within the planet's heart. Imagine the Earth's core, a sphere of molten iron swirling in slow eddies, rising and falling in convection currents, twisting like warm honey stirred over eons. These flows create magnetic lines that loop outward, stretching into space before curving back toward the poles. The magnetic field feels steady to us because it changes so slowly, drifting a few kilometers each year, wandering gently across the planet the way a cloud might shift across the sky. And every few 100,000 years this field flips entirely, the North and South poles trading places in a transformation so unhurried that life barely notices. No sudden flicker, no dramatic shift, just a slow dance of magnetism that unfolds across millennia. Even now, the magnetic North Pole is drifting gradually away from Canada towards Siberia, gliding across the Arctic with the serene pace of geological motion. Scientists track its path, but there is no urgency to its journey. It simply moves because the patterns in the core keep flowing, adjusting, reorganizing, a gentle rearrangement of invisible lines. There is something calming about knowing that the planet's protective shield is not rigid but fluid. It adapts. It reshapes itself when needed. It drifts without hurry. In a way, the magnetic field mirrors human experience. We too are shaped by currents beneath the surface. Thoughts, emotions, memories flowing quietly through the mind. Sometimes they shift, realign, or drift into new patterns, and it happens slowly, naturally, without the need for force. The auroras, shimmering curtains of light near the poles, are the most visible expression of the magnetic field's presence. When solar particles meet the field, they follow magnetic lines toward the polar regions, where they collide with atmospheric gases and create glowing waves of green, pink, and violet. These lights dance in silence, mirroring the swirling motion deep inside the Earth. If the core is the heart of the planet, the auroras are its dreams made visible. Tonight, imagine these magnetic lines encircling the Earth, soft loops of energy, quiet and protective. Imagine the drifting of the poles, steady and calm, as natural as the movement of tides. Imagine the core's molten current swirling far below, shaping the shield that has kept life safe for billions of years. Let the idea of this invisible, gentle motion soothe you. Let it remind you that not all support is seen. Some of it surrounds you quietly, always present, drifting slowly with you as you move through your own life. Deep underground, where no light ever wanders and the air sits still for centuries at a time, crystals grow in darkness with a patience that feels almost sacred. They begin as minerals dissolved in warm water, drifting through tiny fractures in the rock. Then, molecule by molecule, they settle into place, forming shapes so precise and balanced that they look almost deliberate, as if the Earth were arranging them with careful hands. But no hands are involved, only time, only stillness, only the gentle guidance of chemistry unfolding at its own pace. Crystals remind us that beauty often forms where no one can see it, in places too quiet for the world above to notice. While cities rise and fall on the surface, While rivers carve landscapes and mountains breathe in their slow upward motion, crystals are growing silently beneath everything. Small, intricate worlds arranged in perfect geometry, quartz forming six-sided prisms as clear as frozen breath, amethyst deepening into violet hues as iron and radiation work together in slow harmony, calcite spreading in soft, shimmering layers. Even the tiniest geode begins as a hollow cavity, an empty space waiting for minerals to drift in and give it purpose, and they always do. They always arrive, drawn by water and heat and the faint pull of equilibrium. Over years, then centuries, then millennia, crystals assemble themselves with remarkable order, each atom finding its place as though following a peaceful pattern whispered through the stone. What makes this process so calming to imagine is its gentleness. Growth is not forced. It does not happen all at once. It doesn't require noise or urgency. It is slow, steady, inevitable, a kind of geological breathing that shapes beauty from darkness. Crystals grow hidden from the world, but when they finally reach the surface, whether through erosion or excavation or chance, they appear like gifts from the deep, shimmering, cool to the touch, each reflecting light in its own quiet way. No two are the same, yet all share the same patient origin. And even though they seem delicate, crystals often survive what the rock around them cannot. Their lattice structures give them strength, the kind of strength that forms only when things come together perfectly, slowly. There is a lesson tucked inside that structure. A reminder that when you allow things to take their natural shape without pressure or haste, they tend to settle into harmony. A reminder that growth can happen in silence, without anyone watching. A reminder that transformation doesn't need an audience to be meaningful. Imagine for a moment a crystal chamber deep underground. Water seeps through cracks, carrying minerals that drift gently into place. The air is cool and unmoving. Darkness is complete, yet peaceful. And there, in that quiet sanctuary, crystals lengthen almost imperceptibly. A few atoms today, a few tomorrow, a layer this century, another layer the next. Their entire existence is one long, unbroken meditation. Tonight, as you breathe slowly, imagine your thoughts settling the same way those minerals do, drifting into place, aligning quietly, forming something clear and calm inside you. You do not need to rush your own growth. You do not need to shine before you're ready. You are allowed to take time, to grow gently, to form your own inner clarity at the pace that feels right. Like crystals growing in darkness, you are becoming something beautiful, even in moments when no one is watching. In the quiet expanse of a desert, where wind drifts like a slow breath across open land and the horizon stretches without urgency, rocks become canvases for time itself. They stand exposed under sun and starlight, shaped not by sudden events but by millions of soft, persistent touches, the gentle abrasion of sand, the cool contraction of night, the subtle expansion of heat at dawn. These forces work together the way an artist works with brush strokes, adding layer after layer until the stone carries a story etched into its surface. When you look at desert rocks, you see patterns carved by patience, smooth curves shaped by centuries of wind polishing the edges, sharp ridges softened by countless cold nights, thin layers of varnish formed as minerals accumulate from the faintest moisture in the air. Iron paints red streaks across sandstone, manganese leaves behind dark, gleaming traces. Time shades each surface with colours it chooses slowly, lovingly, without ever hurrying. The desert itself is a master of quiet change. It carries tiny grains of sand across miles, each one a fragment of something ancient. When these grains move in the wind, they brush against rock surfaces with the gentleness of fingertips. One grain alone can do nothing, but billions, carried over millennia, can sculpt entire landscapes. They work the way sleep works on the mind, slowly smoothing the rough edges, softening what feels harsh, carving clarity into what was once sharp. And the shapes that emerge from this long process are often astonishing. Balanced rocks that look as if they're floating, arches stretching across blue sky like frozen waves, pillars standing like silent guardians, cavities carved by wind into soft, hollow forms where shadows pool during the hottest hours of the day. Each formation appears almost intentional, as though nature were expressing itself through stone. Yet none of it was planned. All of it was simply allowed to happen. In deserts, time is the artist and stone is the canvas. Even the way shadows move across the rock feels like part of the artwork. In the early morning, cliffs glow gold. By midday, they bleach into pale stillness. At dusk, they deepen into shades of amber, copper, violet. Each hour paints the surface anew, reminding you that even things that seem solid are always changing softly. And then there is the silence. Desert rock carries a kind of quiet that feels ancient, as if it has soaked up centuries of stillness. When you place your hand on a sun-warmed boulder, you feel the calm stored within it. The stone doesn't rush to cool down or heat up. It shifts temperature the way a glacier moves, gradually, steadily at the pace of the world turning. Sometimes, small creatures leave delicate tracks across the sand around the rocks. A lizard, a beetle, the faint brush of a bird's wing. Even these marks add to the desert's slow artwork, disappearing with the next breeze, then reappearing somewhere else. The landscape is always being erased and redrawn, but never completely changed. It is a cycle of soft renewal. Imagine sitting beside one of these desert rocks as the evening settles. The light fades gently. The air cools against your skin. The stone beneath you radiates the warmth it gathered during the day, offering it back slowly, like a final exhale. In that moment, you can feel how time itself moves here, not in hours or days, but in the quiet accumulation of tiny acts. Let that idea settle inside you. Let it remind you that your own transformation doesn't need to be sudden. That change can be peaceful, that who you are can be shaped gently by the smallest, softest moments. Like desert rocks painted by time, you too can be reshaped slowly into something beautiful. Far below the ground you walk on, deeper than soil, deeper than bedrock, deeper than the oldest roots reaching into the earth, a quiet warmth glows. It rises from the mantle in slow, patient waves, the lingering heat of a planet still cooling from its ancient birth. This warmth is not fiery or chaotic. It is steady, like the low hum of a sleeping creature, a gentle reminder that beneath layers of stone and time, the earth is quietly alive. When you picture the ground beneath you, you might imagine it as cold and unmoving. But if you could drift downward in your thoughts, through sand, through layers of sediment, through hardening rock, you would eventually reach a realm where the temperature increases with every step, not sharply, not suddenly, just gradually, the way dawn warms the sky. This temperature increase is called the geothermal gradient, and it's one of the calmest, most reliable rhythms of our planet. On average, for every 100 meters you descend, the Earth becomes a little warmer, a soft, persistent rise that continues until the stone glows red and molten. Imagine placing your hand near this warmth, not close enough to burn, just close enough to feel the steady radiance. It is the heat left over from Earth's formation, from the collisions that built the planet, from radioactive elements decaying slowly deep within the mantle. It is the planet's deep memory glowing softly in the dark. Every volcano, every hot spring, every geyser, every warm cave flowing with mineral-rich water is connected to this inner warmth, not as violent outbursts, but as moments where the heat gently escapes, rising upward to meet the cool surface air. In Iceland, visitors rest in geothermal pools where hot water bubbles up from beneath volcanic rock, carrying minerals that have travelled through the earth for centuries. In Japan, Natural onsen baths steam quietly in mountain valleys, warmed by geological breath. In Yellowstone, the ground itself exhales warmth through vibrant pools, steam vents, and geysers that pulse like the Earth's heartbeat. But you don't need to stand beside a hot spring to feel this connection. Even in places with no volcanic activity, the warmth below is still there, subtle, hidden, yet always present. It holds the planet's interior together. It drives the slow drift of continents. It stirs the mantle in currents that shape mountain ranges, open oceans, and carve rifts into the crust. It is the engine behind much of geology, yet it works in silence. Imagine this warmth reaching upward beneath your feet right now, not in temperature you can feel, but in presence, as deep, grounding sense that the Earth has a steady pulse. A pulse that has continued for billions of years and will continue for billions more, long after our brief stories have faded into memory. And perhaps there is something comforting in that, to know that beneath every step you take, beneath every place you rest your head, beneath every landscape you visit, there is this constant glow, quiet, ancient, patient. It asks nothing of you. It offers support without being seen. It warms the world from within, the way a calm heart warms the body from the inside. Tonight, as your breath slows and your thoughts soften, imagine the Earth's inner warmth gently rising toward you, not as heat, but as reassurance. As a reminder that even in darkness, even in silence, something steady is holding you from below, a glow beneath your feet, a calm centre beneath the world, a comfort that has been there since the beginning. If you were to look beneath the tranquil surface of an ancient lake, you would see a world of quiet memory resting in thin layers of sediment. Lakes are some of the Earth's softest historians. They gather what falls into them, pollen drifting on warm wind, volcanic ash settling after distant eruptions, tiny shells sinking gently through still water, leaves carried by rain, and they preserve these offerings in delicate, undisturbed sheets. Year after year, century after century, each layer forms a page in the lake's long and peaceful story. At the bottom, where light fades to nothing and the water grows dense and still, sediment settles like dust in an untouched room. Nothing moves quickly here. Every particle drifts downward at its own unhurried pace, landing softly atop what came before. Over thousands of years, the lake builds a stack of quiet memories that scientists call varves, thin, alternating bands of light and dark sediment that record the passing of seasons the way tree rings record years. A bright layer marks a summer, when warmth encourages life and light particles fall more freely. A dark layer marks a winter, when ice seals the surface from wind and snow adds its own muted signature. Layer by layer, the lake writes its life story in silence. These hidden archives capture not only the passage of seasons, but the life of entire worlds, the arrival of a new plant species, changes in rainfall, shifts in temperature, forest fires miles away. Even the faint fingerprints of ancient humans, smoke from distant hearths, grains of pollen from cultivated fields, whispers of habitation etched into the sediment long before cities existed. And yet, despite holding all of this history, lakes appear calm. When you sit by one, the surface looks like a mirror laid gently upon the land. Ripples move only when wind touches them. Reflections of clouds drift across with such softness that you can almost imagine the water breathing. Every lake, whether clear mountain, tarn, or wide, warm basin, holds its own slow rhythm. Some are fed by glacial melt, their waters cool and pure, carrying tiny fragments of long-travelled ice. Some gather minerals from hot springs, infusing their depths with warmth and gentle chemistry. Some dry out and return with the rains, forming temporary basins where life blooms quickly and fades just as quietly. And some lakes vanish entirely over millennia, leaving behind salt flats, fertile plains, or hollow basins that later fill with sand. Even then, their stories remain written in the sediments beneath. Imagine standing beside a lake at dusk. The surface is still, holding the reflection of the sky as though it were a second world, a quiet echo of fading light. A frog calls from reeds. A breeze brushes the water with faint ripples. Beneath that surface, countless layers lie undisturbed, holding memories of storms and summers and migrations that happened long before you arrived. There is something soothing about knowing that lakes keep their histories gently. They don't shout their stories. They preserve them. They cradle them. They let the world change above while remaining patient below. In this way, lakes show us a softer kind of time, one that unfolds slowly, quietly, without demanding attention, a time that accepts every moment as part of the whole. Tonight, as you rest, imagine those deep, calm waters beneath you. Imagine the layers settling softly through the years, one after another, forming a record of life that no one needs to rush. Let that sense of quiet accumulation guide your thoughts toward stillness. You too can let things settle gently. You too can allow your memories to drift into place. You too can rest like a quiet lake of an ancient world. If you've ever picked up a smooth stone from a riverbed, one that fits gently in your palm, soft-edged and cool, you've held the result of one of the Earth's quietest, most patient processes. Riverstones do not begin their lives rounded. They start as sharp fragments, broken from cliffs or mountainsides, angular and rough. But when water meets stone, a long, peaceful transformation begins. The river lifts the stones, rolls them, nudges them against one another, sets them back down again, not with force, but with repetition. Each movement, each small collision, each swirl of current gently knocks away an edge. What looks like polishing is actually the slow undoing of sharpness, the river teaching the stone to soften. Imagine that journey. A jagged piece of rock tumbles into a stream during a storm, landing among rushing water and swirling sand. The storm passes, the water calms, but the stone remains. Over days, then years, then centuries, it drifts and shifts and settles, never staying in one place for long. Sometimes it rests under shallow water where sunlight flickers across its surface. Sometimes it sinks deeper, cushioned by sand. Sometimes a strong current lifts it and carries it downstream, letting it meet new stones, new bends, new rhythms of water. At every stage, the river continues its gentle work. A touch here, a nudge there. Soft grinding guided by nothing more than flow. The stone surrenders its sharpness grain by grain, until one day, long after it has forgotten its original shape, it becomes smooth. A shape created not by urgency, but by patience, not by pressure, but by persistence. When you hold a river stone, you can feel that softness. Its edges do not demand attention. Its surface feels calm, as though the water has poured its own quiet into it. That calmness is deeply comforting. A reminder that even harsh beginnings can be worn into gentleness through time. Rivers do not judge the stones they carry. They don't rush them. They simply keep moving, and through their motion, they offer transformation. In this way, river stones mirror something inside each of us. We all begin with sharp edges, uncertainties, fears, memories that feel rough to the touch. Life, like a river, wears those edges down not through force, but through continuous experience. Each moment becomes a grain of sand brushing against us. Each challenge, each joy, each change a tiny movement that shapes us into something softer, something more rounded, something easier to hold. And just like stones, we don't notice the transformation while it's happening. It's too slow, too subtle. Only after enough time has passed do we realize that the edges we once carried have smoothed themselves into understanding. Picture a riverbed now. Cold, clear water flowing over stones of all sizes, each one shimmering faintly beneath the surface. Some stones are smooth already, some are halfway there, some are still sharp, just beginning their long conversation with the water. But all of them are on the same quiet journey. None of them hurry, none of them resist. They simply exist within the flow, letting time do what time does best, soften, shape, and carry things forward. Tonight, as you breathe slowly, imagine your thoughts becoming like those river stones, letting the day's edges dissolve, letting the flow of rest smooth every worry, letting the current of sleep carry you gently toward peace. You don't need to force anything. Just let the river move, let the edges soften, let yourself be shaped by calm. Erosion is one of the Earth's softest voices. It never shouts, never forces, never rushes. Instead, it works with the quiet persistence of wind brushing a hillside, rain settling into tiny cracks, roots gently pressing outward as they grow. Through these small, almost imperceptible motions, entire landscapes change shape. Not quickly, not dramatically, but steadily, like a whisper repeated over ages until even the hardest stone learns to listen. When we think of erosion, we often picture loss. Cliffs falling, soil washing away, stone wearing thin. But in geology, erosion is not destruction. It is transformation. It is movement. It is the slow rearranging of the Earth's surface in a rhythm so calm it almost feels like the planet breathing. A mountain loses a grain of sand to wind. That grain travels to a dune, to a river, to the ocean, where it becomes part of something new. A cliff face sheds a thin layer of rock. Sunlight touches the newly revealed surface for the first time in millions of years. A riverbank shifts by a few centimetres. The water flows a little differently, carving a new path that will one day become a valley. Nothing is truly lost. Everything is simply changing form. Erosion reminds us that nothing in nature is static. Even the most solid things are in gentle motion, shaped by elements that work with patience instead of force. Imagine standing in a canyon carved by water. The air's cool. The walls rise above you in soft flowing curves, shapes sculpted by millions of raindrops, none of which knew it was part of something grand. Each drop touched the stone lightly, took a single grain with it, and continued its journey. The canyon you see is the result of uncountable small acts of movement, repeated across unimaginable time. Or imagine a coastal cliff watching waves arrive one after another. Each wave reaches up, pulls back, reaches up again. It doesn't matter how weak the water seems. Time is stronger. The cliffs slowly soften, their edges smoothing into gentle slopes, then into beaches where the waves finally rest. Even deserts, places that seem barren and still, are always shifting. Wind moves grains of sand the way breath moves across glass. Dunes travel. Rock arches are thinned by grains carried on the wind, carving elegant shapes that feel almost handcrafted. But no hand is involved. Only motion. Only patience. Only the soft whisper of erosion. There is something profoundly calming about this process. It shows us that change doesn't have to be violent. That transformation doesn't have to be sudden. That even the most stubborn structures can soften when touched gently, again and again, by small forces working in harmony. In many ways, erosion mirrors the way time shapes us. Experiences brush against us. Moments shift our edges. Conversations, memories, and quiet realizations wear away what no longer fits. We soften. We change shape. We become smoother versions of ourselves. The hard layers fall away, revealing something truer, something calmer beneath. Tonight, as your breath slows, imagine the soft forces of the world around you, the wind, the rain, the flowing water, whispering their way across the stone. Imagine cliffs turning to sand, mountains smoothing into gentle slopes, rough edges dissolving into curves, and let that same whisper reach your mind. Let it soften the sharp corners of your day. Let it smooth your worries. Let it gently, patiently reshape your thoughts into something quieter, calmer, more at ease. Because erosion is not the end of anything. It is the beginning of something new created by softness itself. Some minerals hide their magic until the world grows dim. In sunlight they appear ordinary, grey, brown or pale, like quiet stones resting peacefully in the palm of your hand. But under the soft glow of ultraviolet light, they awaken. Suddenly colours bloom from within them. Blues deepen into electric glimmers. Greens radiate like soft auroras. Pinks and oranges emerge like whispered sparks, glowing not from the surface, but from the mineral's very structure. This quiet phenomenon is known as fluorescence, and it is one of geology's gentlest surprises, a reminder that the Earth often carries hidden beauty, waiting for the right kind of light. Fluorescent minerals do not shine constantly. They are not seeking attention. Their glow appears only when specific wavelengths touch them, exciting electrons just enough to release a soft, luminous breath. As soon as the light fades, the glow disappears, and the mineral returns to its calm, unassuming form. There is something deeply soothing about this behavior, a reminder that it's okay to shine only sometimes, that it's natural to move between stillness and brightness. That beauty does not need to be constant to be real. Many of these minerals grow in quiet places, in dark caves where water drips slowly, in seams deep beneath mountains, in pockets of old lava flows. For millions of years they rest unseen, forming crystals in the dark, waiting with patient silence. Then, one day, a beam of ultraviolet light touches them, and they answer with a soft radiance. Nothing rushed, nothing forced, just a gentle reveal of something that was always there. Fluorite glows in purples and blues, like twilight inside a gemstone. Calcite emits soft hues of orange, yellow or pink. Willemite shines green, as though holding a tiny silent ember of starlight. Even the chalky rocks that seem dull under lamps can transform into brilliant mosaics of colour. Tiny galaxies captured in stone. These minerals remind us that light interacts with matter in intimate ways, coaxing hidden qualities to the surface. It is a dance of energy, unfolding quietly on the atomic level. And yet the result feels magical, like discovering that the Earth keeps secrets meant only for those who know how to look gently. Imagine yourself in a dark room, holding a mineral under a small ultraviolet lamp. At first it seems plain, a rough shape, a muted colour. But when the light touches it, the stone blooms within a fire. The glow is not harsh. It is soft, dreamlike, spreading through the mineral like moonlight through mist. Then, when the lamp moves away, the stone rests again, serene and unchanged. A glow held momentarily, then lovingly released. Fluorescence feels like a metaphor for the rhythms of our own inner world. We all carry parts of ourselves that glow only in the right conditions, when we feel safe, understood, or quietly seen. Those moments don't need to last forever to matter. They are like the soft, brief radiance of minerals, real, meaningful, beautiful, even if they fade into rest again. Tonight, imagine those minerals glowing softly in the dark. Imagine their inner colours blooming like secret constellations. Imagine that slow, gentle revelation, light touching stone, stone answering with quiet beauty. Let that image guide your breath into something calm. Let it remind you that you too have hidden colours that emerge when the moment is right, and that it's perfectly okay for your glow to come and go like a soft whisper of light in the dark. Soil seems simple at first glance. Just the ground beneath our feet, the surface where plants grow and rain sinks quietly into the earth. But soil is not just dirt. It is the planet's living skin, created through one of geology's gentlest, longest and most essential processes. Soil forms slowly, patiently, from the quiet transformation of stone into something that can hold life. It is the earth learning to breathe. Imagine rock resting on a mountainside. For ages it sits in stillness, warmed by sunlight, cooled by night air. Then rain falls. Water seeps into tiny cracks. A frost arrives, expanding the water into ice, nudging the rock apart grain by grain. In summer, roots of small plants press into those same cracks, gently prying them open. Lichens cling to the surface, excreting faint acids that dissolve minerals. Wind carries dust that settles between the fragments, and all of these small, delicate touches add up, not in days or years, but in centuries. The stone slowly crumbles into smaller pieces, each piece breaking into something finer, softer, the beginnings of soil. But this is only the first step. Soil becomes truly alive when organic matter arrives. Leaves fall, insects live and vanish, microbes multiply in the shaded moisture beneath plants. Every fallen leaf becomes nourishment, every root becomes a companion, every droplet brings new chemistry. Little by little, minerals mix with life. The earth begins to turn stone into nourishment. Hardness becomes softness, stillness becomes fertility. The transformation is quiet, taking hundreds, sometimes thousands of years to create just a few centimeters of rich soil. And yet without this slow process, forests would not rise, crops would not grow, rivers would carry only barren sediment, and entire ecosystems would slip into silence. Soil is the earth exhaling, giving life space to bloom. What's remarkable is how soil holds both memory and potential. Its minerals remember the stone they came from: granite, basalt, limestone, each offering its own nutrients. Its organic matter remembers every leaf that ever fell, every root that ever pushed through. And together, these memories form a foundation for new life. When you walk barefoot on healthy soil, you feel a softness that took ages to form. That softness is the result of countless small gestures: raindrops, microbes, roots, frost, working together across generations. It is patience made tangible, it is time made gentle, and soil is never finished. Even now it is forming beneath forests and grasslands, in wetlands and meadows, on mountainsides and plains, always breaking down stone, always turning decay into nourishment, always renewing itself with quiet breath. This rhythm mirrors a truth in us as well. Sometimes what feels like breaking down is really the beginning of becoming something richer. Sometimes a difficult moment is simply the start of a transformation that takes time. Soil teaches us that softness can come from strength, and that life grows best in places shaped slowly. Tonight, imagine fertile soil beneath a quiet forest. The air is cool, the ground is warm from the day's sun, roots weave gently through the earth, microbes hum softly in their invisible world, and beneath all of this the last traces of stone continue to crumble into something nurturing. Let yourself feel that softness, that slow renewal, that breath of the earth shaping life from silence. You too can let go of hardness. You too can become something richer over time. You too can soften into growth. Imagine walking through a forest millions of years ago, tall trees stretching toward the sky, leaves trembling in gentle wind, roots anchored deep in rich soil. Now imagine that same forest, long after the trees have fallen, long after the seasons have shifted, long after the climate has changed, and yet the trees are still there, not as wood, but as stone. Petrified wood is one of the earth's most delicate miracles. It is the transformation of living trees into quiet sculptures of mineral, a process so slow and tender that the wood's shape, texture, and even cellular details remain perfectly preserved. It is as if time paused in mid-breath and allowed the forest to crystallize. The transformation begins when a tree falls and becomes buried under sediment. Volcanic ash, river deposits, or layers of mud that settle gently around it. Deprived of oxygen, the wood does not rot. Instead, water rich with minerals flows through the sediment, seeping into the tree's tissues. Bit by bit, molecule by molecule, the organic material is replaced with silica, calcite, or other minerals brought in by the water. The process is not destructive. It is almost loving. The minerals fill the tree cell by cell, preserving its rings, its bark, its knots, and its patterns. What remains is not wood, yet it looks exactly like wood, a fossil in the most poetic sense. You can see the growth rings as if the tree had just been cut. You can trace the lines of old branches. You can run your fingers across textures once formed by sap and seasons, now held in quartz and jasper. Many pieces of petrified wood glow with colours that trees never had in life. Iron turns the mineralized wood red or gold. Copper brings hints of blue. Manganese paints it in deep purples and blacks. Silica creates shimmering translucence, giving the impression that the tree is holding onto a secret light. These colours are the earth's additions to the story, the mineral palette overlaying the memory of the forest. There is something deeply peaceful about imagining this transformation happening underground. No one witnesses it. No one feels the moment when wood becomes stone. It happens in silence, over millions of years, hidden from the changing world above. The tree that once swayed in the wind now rests in complete stillness, its presence preserved not through life, but through patience. Petrified forests still exist in many parts of the world, quiet landscapes where stone trunks lie scattered like fallen giants, or stand upright in frozen groves. Walking among them feels like stepping into a dream of time. You see the forms of trees that grew in ancient climates, under skies that held different stars, in ecosystems long extinct. And yet the trees are right there, offering their shapes to your gaze. Not ghosts, not memories, but physical reminders of how gently the earth preserves what it loves. Petrified wood teaches a soft truth. Transformation does not always erase what came before. Sometimes it protects it. Sometimes it turns it into something even more enduring. Sometimes the most fragile things, like wood, can become the most permanent when time is allowed to work at its natural pace. Tonight, as your breath slows and your thoughts soften, imagine a fallen tree turning slowly, gracefully into stone. Imagine each cell filling with light minerals, strengthening and preserving. Imagine the quiet of that long process, and let it remind you that your own changes, even the ones you cannot see, may be forming something lasting within you. Patterns of resilience, colours of experience, quiet layers of strength turning gently to stone. From the outside, a geode looks like nothing more than an unassuming lumpy stone, weathered, plain, quiet. You could walk past 1,000 of them without ever guessing what they hold inside. But break one open, and you discover a hidden universe. Crystals blooming in perfect geometry, shimmering in delicate clusters, every angle catching light like a tiny constellation captured in stone. Geodes are the Earth's gentle reminder that beauty often grows in secret. They form in hollows within rock, empty spaces left by ancient gas bubbles in lava, by dissolved minerals in sedimentary stone, by small pockets where nothing solid took root. Over time, groundwater rich with dissolved minerals seeps into these hollows. It enters slowly, carrying silica, calcite, or other elements suspended in its quiet flow. Inside the cavity, the water lingers in perfect stillness. Drop by drop, molecule by molecule, minerals begin to cling to the walls. They arrange themselves with delicate order, forming crystals that lengthen the way frost grows on windows. Gradually, elegantly, without sound. For thousands, sometimes millions of years, this process continues, undisturbed, unseen, uninterrupted. Then one day, When the outer rock erodes or a curious hand breaks it open, the secret garden inside is revealed. What once appeared dull suddenly shines. Sharp glassy points, soft lilac amethyst. Smoky quartz shimmering like morning fog. Chalcedony lining the edges like a protective shell. The inside of a geode feels impossibly peaceful, like a small sanctuary protected from the rush of the world. A place where time has room to work slowly. A place where quiet becomes form. And perhaps that is why geodes capture our imagination so easily. They hold two truths at once, the simplicity of the exterior and the hidden brilliance of the interior. Much like people, much like stories, much like moments that appear ordinary until you look closer. Imagine holding a geode in your hands. Its weight is reassuring. Its surface is rough, irregular, like an old stone worn by wind. But inside, the crystals sparkle softly, each one reflecting a different angle of light. They grew in darkness. They grew without needing to be seen. They grew because water and minerals and time work together in perfect calm. There is no rush inside a geode. The crystals do not compete. They do not struggle. They simply become themselves, crystal by crystal, filling the hollow with quiet beauty. Sometimes the cavity remains partly empty, leaving space in the centre, a tiny chamber of untouched air that has not moved since the crystals began forming, a stillness lasting millions of years. You can almost imagine the silence inside that space, the unbroken pause of geological time. Even the way geodes are discovered mirrors their nature. Often they break open accidentally, a split revealing an unexpected galaxy of light. Their beauty emerges through chance, through erosion, through curiosity, through openness, and each geode is unique. Some have vivid colours, some have translucent depths, some sparkle brightly, others glow faintly, like candlelight seen through fog. All of them are reminders that the earth creates wonders quietly. Tonight, as your thoughts soften, imagine a geode forming in the dark. Picture minerals drifting inward, alighting gently on the inner walls. Picture crystals lengthening in slow motion, guided only by the calm laws of geometry. Picture an entire world growing within a stone, waiting patiently to be discovered. Let that image remind you that hidden beauty often forms when life slows down, in moments of stillness, in spaces of rest, in quiet places within yourself. You too hold worlds that no one sees yet, and with time, they will reveal their light. Most people think of tides as something that moves only the oceans, waves rising and falling, shorelines breathing in and out beneath the pull of the moon. But the truth is gentler and far more surprising. Tides do not touch only water. They lift the very crust of the earth itself. Solid ground, mountains, plains, deserts, forests, rises and falls ever so slightly each day, following the moon's quiet pull just as faithfully as the sea. You don't feel this motion. You're not meant to. It is too soft, too small, too elegant to interrupt a single step you take. But it is always happening. The Earth's crust rises by a few centimetres, then settles again, in a rhythm so subtle it becomes a form of planetary breathing. This is known as Earth tide, a slow, silent flexing of rock directed by gravity's invisible hands. Imagine a world where the ground beneath you swells gently toward the sky, not with force, but with surrender, leaning into the moon's pull the way a tree leans into light. Then, as the moon drifts farther across the sky, the ground relaxes, sinking back into its natural curve. Over and over, every day, everywhere on the planet, the crust moves in this soft rhythm. Even continents participate. Even mountains respond. Even the most ancient bedrock rises slightly, as if acknowledging the moon's presence. And all of this happens without sound, without vibration, without any disruption at all. It is movement made entirely of calm. The oceans swell visibly, their surfaces shimmering in long arcs of motion. But beneath them, deeper in the earth, rock responds with equal grace, proving that even solid things are not entirely still. We often think of the ground as something fixed and unmoving, but the earth is more fluid than it seems. Its crust floats on a mantle that flows like warm taffy, responding to any touch, no matter how faint. So when the moon pulls on the earth, the crust follows, slowly, smoothly, obedient to a rhythm that has shaped our planet since it first formed. The moon, small as it appears in the sky, has enough gentle gravity to cradle the earth in this subtle dance, and the earth accepts the pull without resistance, allowing itself to be lifted and lowered with patience. There is something deeply comforting about imagining this, that the planet itself sways softly each day, guided by the quiet presence of a companion in the sky. It's a reminder that relationships in nature do not always require force. Sometimes they require only connection. When you stand outside during a full moon, feeling the cool air settle around you, the ground beneath your feet is rising ever so slightly, following the moon's arc across the horizon. You cannot feel it, but your body is part of that motion. Your breath, rising and falling in its own slow rhythm, is layered over the earth's breath, rising and falling beneath you. The two rhythms overlap, one biological, one geological, merging into a single peaceful pattern. And knowing this, even in the quiet of night, can bring a deep sense of grounding. The idea that you're never entirely still, that the earth is never entirely still, that everything moves together in calm, connected ways. Tonight, as you rest, imagine the crust lifting gently beneath you like the surface of a calm lake responding to a distant wind. Imagine the moon guiding this movement with silent grace. Imagine yourself drifting in harmony with both, your body rising on an invisible tide, your breath falling back into stillness, your thoughts becoming as soft as the earth's subtle motion. Let that gentle rise and fall carry you, the way the moon carries the earth. Long after the world falls silent each night, after the winds calm, after the oceans settle, after the voices of daytime fade, the earth continues to hum, not metaphorically but literally. Our planet produces a faint continuous vibration, a low-frequency resonance that moves through rock, water, air, and even your body. It is called the Earth's hum, and though we cannot hear it with our ears, it is always there, carrying the quiet heartbeat of the planet across continents. Scientists discovered this hum only recently, using instruments sensitive enough to detect motion smaller than a strand of hair drifting in a breeze. What they found was astonishing. Even when there are no earthquakes, no storms, no crashing waves, the earth still vibrates, slowly, softly, like a deep exhale sustained over centuries. Where does this hum come from? Not from anything dramatic, not from eruptions or tectonic upheavals. It seems to be created by the endless interaction between ocean waves and the seafloor, by air pressure pushing gently on the surface, by the subtle shifting of atmosphere and water. Small forces, simple touches, billions of tiny motions overlapping, till they form a gentle, global resonance. It is the sound of the world simply existing, and in a way, it is the quietest lullaby you'll never hear. Imagine standing barefoot on solid ground. Beneath the stillness you feel, the earth is vibrating at frequencies far below human hearing. Long, slow waves moving through the crust like ripples in a pond that has forgotten its disturbance. Seismographs capture these vibrations as smooth, repeating patterns, calm and rhythmic. The earth is not roaring, it is humming, the way a sleeping creature hums in its dreams. This hum connects everything: deserts, forests, mountains, cities, oceans. No matter where you stand, whether on soft soil or ancient bedrock or the wooden floor of your room, the vibration moves through you. You're part of the resonance simply by being here. And the hum has been present for as long as Earth has had oceans and atmosphere. Dinosaurs lived within it. Ancient forests swayed above it. Early humans walked across it without knowing. Entire civilizations rose and fell on this quiet foundation, unaware that the ground beneath them carried a subtle music. There is something profoundly calming in this idea, that beneath all the noise of life there exists a deeper stillness, a deeper steadiness, a deeper rhythm that has been humming for millions of years and will continue long after we are gone. A rhythm that asks nothing of us, a rhythm that supports us without distraction, a rhythm that remains steady even when our own lives feel uncertain or loud. Imagine lying down now, your body slowly becoming heavier as you breathe. Beneath you, through layers of floor and soil and stone, the earth hums, a low, gentle vibration, constant and comforting. You cannot hear it, but you can sense its presence in the same way you sense the quietness of a room at night, or the way your breath softens when the world around you grows still. Let that hum become a feeling in your chest, a softness behind your ribs, a steadying presence that holds you in place. The earth is always humming, always breathing beneath you, always offering a foundation of calm that you can return to at any moment. Tonight, imagine that hum wrapping gently around your thoughts, smoothing them into simplicity. Imagine it beneath your body, beneath your rest, beneath your dreams. The quiet heart of a planet, keeping time as you drift. When we speak of geology, we speak of time on a scale so vast that human years feel like sparks drifting through a long, dimly lit corridor. Deep time stretches backward billions of years, far beyond memory, far beyond history, into eras where oceans formed, mountains rose, and continents wove slowly across the planet like drifting pieces of a dream. Human time, by comparison, is small, delicate, brief. We measure life in decades, stories in years, moments in seconds, and yet these two forms of time coexist beautifully. They do not compete, they simply move at different speeds, like two rivers flowing beside each other, one swift and shimmering, the other slow and deep. Imagine holding a small pebble in your hand. Its surface is cool, its shape is simple, but its story is immense. That pebble may have once been part of a mountain taller than anything that exists today. It may have rested on the floor of an ancient sea, surrounded by creatures whose forms have long vanished. It may have been shaped by glaciers, rivers, wind, and pressure, each force contributing its own calm touch. And here you are, holding it for a moment, adding your own heartbeat to its timeline. Deep time and human time meet in these tiny moments, these brief intersections where a geological story pauses long enough for a human story to notice it. There is something soothing in this contrast, something that makes our days feel lighter, knowing that our struggles, worries, deadlines, and expectations exist within a timeline that is, in the grand picture, incredibly gentle and incredibly small. Not in a way that diminishes us, but in a way that frees us. It's a reminder that we do not need to rush to match the Earth's pace. We cannot. The planet moves in cycles too slow to chase, changes in rhythms too soft to feel. Instead, we are invited to appreciate our own brief, shining span within a world that has seen so much and still remains patient. Deep time also teaches us perspective. Mountains rise and fall, forests flourish and fade, seas come and go, species appear and disappear. And yet, through all of it, the Earth continues its slow, steady movement forward. Every change is part of a greater flow. Every moment is connected to a longer story. And human time, though short, is no less meaningful. In our briefness, We notice details the earth never pauses for. The warmth of a morning sunbeam, the pattern of leaves moving in wind, the comfort of a quiet night. We see beauty in moments, in minutes, in the spaces between breaths. Deep time holds the world. Human time fills it with awareness. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the Earth's entire history unfolding like a long, slow inhale. Oceans forming, continents drifting, volcanoes rising. Glaciers sweeping across the land, forests rooting themselves and releasing their breath into the sky. Through all of it, imagine the calm weight of time pressing gently forward. Now, imagine your life, the dozens of seasons you've lived, the memories you've gathered, the experiences that have shaped you, as tiny glimmers along that immense timeline. They shine brightly, not despite their brevity, but because of it. Tonight, as your breath deepens, let the idea of deep time wrap around you like a soft blanket. Let it relieve the pressure of urgency. Let it ease the weight of expectations. The Earth has waited billions of years to become what it is. You do not need to become anything in a single day. Rest in the knowledge that you are part of something vast, something ancient, something peaceful. Deep time beneath you. Human time within you, both flowing together in the dark. Every stone you have ever touched, whether a pebble on a riverbank, a smooth rock warmed by the afternoon sun, or a cliff face rising against the sky, is a keeper of memories older than anything written, spoken, or remembered by people. Stones carry the history of the earth in their bodies. They remember heat that once surged from the planet's interior. They remember pressure that folded them like soft fabric. They remember oceans that covered continents, glaciers that sculpted valleys, forests that rose and fell long before human hands traced maps across the world. To hold a stone is to hold a piece of time that has survived every changing moment the earth has seen. Imagine turning a small stone over in your hand. Its surface may be smooth, as if it has been polished by 1,000 gentle touches, or it may be rough, marked by grains that formed under ancient seas, or by the slow cooling of molten rock beneath the crust. You feel only the present moment, its temperature, its weight. But beneath that is a story written in minerals and structure, a story of creation through quiet transformation, a story untouched by haste. Stones keep memories not in words, but in patterns. The layering of sediment holds the rhythm of seasons. The veins of quartz mark paths where water once wandered. The colour of a rock reveals the chemistry of the world it was born in. A fragment of sandstone remembers the desert winds. A piece of basalt remembers lava flowing like dark honey under a sky lit by volcanic fire. Granite remembers the deep pressure of mountains forming. Each stone, no matter how small, is a chapter of the Earth's autobiography. And yet stones are patient with their stories. They do not demand that we read them. They lie quietly in forests, on beaches, along trails, waiting for curious hands or wandering eyes to pass by. They endure rain, frost, sunlight, roots pressing against them, waves tumbling them, always carrying the same memories within. There is something profoundly comforting in their endurance. While the world shifts rapidly around us, days rushing one into another, moments slipping quickly out of reach, stones remain. They change, yes, but in rhythms too slow to worry us. A stone might soften over millennia. It might fracture, drift, settle into soil, or become part of a mountain again. But it never hurries, never forces, never resists the passage of time. Stones remind us that there is strength in stillness, that memory can be held gently, that the world's oldest stories are not told in urgency but in quiet presence. Think about the stones that line a quiet footpath. How many footsteps have passed over them? How many storms have washed them clean? How many nights have they spent under moonlight, unbothered by the cold. They have seen more than we ever will, yet they rest without needing to announce it. Tonight, imagine yourself placing your hand on a stone warmed by the day's last sunlight. Feel the steadiness beneath your fingers, a steadiness earned over millions of years. Imagine the layers of memory inside it. Oceans long gone, mountains long eroded, forests that left only whispers in the soil. Let that calm weight soothe you. Let it remind you that your own memories, too, are held gently within you, shaped by time, softened by experience, carried without pressure. You do not need to cling to them tightly. You only need to rest with them, the way the earth rests with its own long history, stones as memory keepers, you as a traveller through both memory and time. If there is one lesson the earth teaches gently again and again, it is this: change does not need to be fast to be meaningful. In geology, the most profound transformations happen quietly, through slow shifts that unfold over thousands, sometimes millions of years. Mountains rise not in explosive leaps, but in the steady lifting of rock. Rivers carve canyons not through single storms, but through continuous motion, drop after drop, ripple after ripple. Even the continents glide so softly that no human will ever see more than a hint of their long journey. This slowness is not a flaw, it is a comfort. It shows us that the world does not need to rush to become beautiful. Imagine a coastline being shaped by waves. Each wave touches the shore for only a moment before retreating, yet the coastline changes over centuries. Cliffs soften, beaches widen, coves deepen. No single wave makes the difference. It is the whole pattern, the repetition, the gentle persistence that reshapes the land. Or think of a desert dune. Wind moves a few grains of sand at a time, shifting the dune by inches each year. And then, one day, without ever witnessing the change itself, the dune has travelled. Slow changes everywhere. Rocks weather, soil forms, forests grow from saplings into towering ecosystems. Coral reefs build their own architecture molecule by molecule. None of these processes hurry. They unfold at the speed that feels natural to them, and the result of their patience is lasting. When you look at the world through this lens, you realize that slow change carries a different kind of power. It is steady, deep, peaceful. It does not demand attention. It simply continues. Humans, however, often expect transformation to be immediate. We want to see results quickly, in our relationships, in our work, in ourselves. But the earth, with its quiet wisdom, reminds us that the most meaningful shifts happen beneath the surface, long before we ever notice them. Consider metamorphic rock. It begins as ordinary stone. Over immense time, under steady pressure and gentle heat, it becomes something new. Marble, slate, gneiss. The transformation is invisible day to day, yet the outcome is profound. Or consider soil forming from bedrock. A leaf falls, a raindrop lands, a root grows. Each tiny action contributes to the creation of something rich and supporting. Change feels slow because it is building depth. The earth never demands that its processes move faster than they are meant to. Trees do not rush their growth. Rivers do not hurry their flow. Stones do not resist the forces shaping them. Everything unfolds in its own time, and there is comfort in aligning yourself with that rhythm. Tonight, imagine a landscape at dusk. Mountains silhouetted against the fading sky. A river winding through the valley below. Wind brushing softly through grasses that have grown for decades. Nothing in this scene is static, yet nothing feels urgent. Everything is moving, but in ways that honour the quiet pace of nature. Let that idea settle into you. You are allowed to change slowly. You are allowed to grow without rushing. You are allowed to let your transformation unfold in its own time. The earth has mastered the art of slow change, and in watching it, we learn how to soften into our own evolution. Quiet, steady, patient, just like the world beneath your feet. We often imagine stability as something unmoving, a solid ground, a fixed point, a certainty that holds steady no matter what happens around it. But geology offers a different, quieter definition. The Earth is constantly in motion. Plates drift, mountains rise, shorelines shift, rivers wander, wind shapes stone, and the planet itself spins through space without rest. And yet, within all this motion there is stability, not in stillness, but in continuity, in the soft assurance that change itself is part of a larger balance. When you stand on solid ground, it's easy to believe it has always been this way, firm, unwavering, complete. But the rock beneath your feet might once have been molten magma deep underground, or sand at the bottom of an ancient sea, or part of a mountain peak eroded long ago. Its current form is just one moment in its long journey. Yet in this moment, it supports you fully. That is the kind of stability geology teaches us. Not the absence of movement, but the gentle promise that each stage of transformation can still hold you. A coastline may shift slowly, but it always meets the ocean. A mountain may erode, but its presence remains. A glacier may melt, but the valley it carved continues to cradle new life. Nothing stays exactly the same. And yet nothing is truly lost. Everything rearranges into a new form of stability. Think of an ancient tree rooted in rocky soil. Its roots weave through fractures in the stone, drawing nourishment from cracks carved by water and time. The tree sways in every breeze, bending with storms, yet stands for centuries. Its stability is not rigid, it is flexible, adaptive, resilient. Or imagine a boulder resting in a quiet meadow. It has travelled from far away, moved by glaciers or landslides long before humans existed. Now it sits in stillness, offering shade, collecting moss, warming under sunlight, cooling in the night. It is stable not because it never moved, but because it no longer needs to. The Earth's stability is like this, the kind that arises from accepting motion rather than resisting it. Even our planet's orbit reflects this truth. Earth circles the Sun with perfect regularity, held in balance by gravity and motion working together. If the planet stopped moving, it would fall inward. If it moved too fast, it would drift away. Stability comes from movement. Balance comes from flow. And so too in your life. There are seasons when everything shifts. New responsibilities, new emotions, new endings, new beginnings. It can feel as if the ground beneath you is changing shape. But geology reminds us that shifting ground can still offer support. That even in motion you can find balance. That stability does not require stillness. It requires trust. Trust that each stage of your journey has its own quiet strength. Tonight, imagine yourself standing on a landscape shaped by ages of motion. Rolling hills made from ancient seabeds, river valleys carved by water, mountains lifted by tectonic breath. Everything around you has changed countless times, and yet it feels peaceful, grounded, whole. Let that sense of stability in motion settle into your thoughts. You're not meant to be fixed. You're meant to flow. You're meant to grow, to shift, to evolve gently, just like the Earth. And in every stage, no matter how subtle or slow, you can find support beneath you. The world is moving. You are moving. And still you are held. If you trace the story of a stone far enough back, you eventually arrive at light. Every mineral, every crystal, every grain of sand began as stardust forged in ancient stellar furnaces. Supernovae, exploding light and matter into the cosmos long before the Earth existed. Over time, that stardust gathered into clouds, then into planets, then into the layers of rock beneath your feet. In this way, stone is not the opposite of light. It is condensed light, slowed light. Light transformed into matter that moves at the patient rhythm of geology. And consciousness, your awareness, your thoughts, your memories, arises from the same cosmic ingredients. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the silicon in the phone you hold, the elements within your brain that allow you to think and dream, all of it originated in stars that died long before the Earth was born. Light, stone, and consciousness are threads of a single story. One moves quickly, one moves slowly, one moves inward, but all three flow from the same cosmic beginning. Imagine holding a quartz crystal in your hand. It feels solid, cool, grounded, but within its atomic structure lies a geometry shaped by the laws of physics, the same laws that govern the flow of photons, the same laws that sculpt the paths of galaxies, the same laws that allow neurons in your brain to fire. You and the stone are made of the same ancient materials, merely arranged in different forms, moving at different tempos. The stone moves at the pace of deep time. You move at the pace of a single life, and light, the oldest storyteller, moves at the fastest speed allowed by the universe. Yet somehow all three come together in this moment. You holding the stone containing the memory of light, the light allowing your consciousness to perceive the world. Even the colours you see in minerals are expressions of light interacting with matter, wavelengths, absorbed or reflected because of the mineral's internal structure. Amethyst appears purple because iron impurities shift the way light moves through quartz. Jade glows green because its fibres scatter light in soft, even patterns. Opal flashes with colours because microscopic silica spheres diffract light like tiny natural prisms. Light reveals stone, stone reflects light, consciousness interprets both, and together they create meaning. There is something deeply soothing in knowing that your awareness, your ability to feel, reflect, and imagine, is connected to the same physical processes that shaped mountains and crystals. The same physics that formed diamonds deep underground is at work when you experience a quiet moment of clarity. The same elemental forces that shaped volcanic glass are present when you remember something tender. You are, in this sense, a geological being as much as a biological one, a conscious arrangement of minerals shaped into a form that can look at the world and wonder. Tonight, picture yourself lying beneath a soft sky, holding a small stone warmed by sunlight. Imagine the journey of its atoms, born in stars, forged in space, gathered into the earth, transformed by pressure, carried by rivers, polished by time. Then imagine your own atoms, those same ancient particles combining in a way that lets you breathe, rest, dream, light, stone, consciousness, all part of one gentle continuum, all connected, all flowing. Let that realization soften your thoughts. Let it remind you that you belong to the universe as naturally as mountains do, as starlight does, as quiet moments do. You are made of the same calm, ancient materials, and you carry that peace within you. Stand at the edge of any landscape, a wide desert plain, a rolling meadow, a quiet shoreline, and you will notice something subtle. The horizon never hurries. It sits at the same distance no matter how quickly you walk. It expands gently as the world opens around you. It is always present, always out of reach, always calm. Geological time feels very much like a horizon. It stretches far beyond what we can grasp, but we can sense it in moments, in the curve of a mountain, in the layers of a canyon wall, in the soft touch of sand shaped by winds older than memory. You cannot touch deep time, but you can stand within its presence. You can feel it around you, the way you feel the air even when you cannot see it. Imagine standing at the rim of a great canyon at dawn. The first light touches the rock in soft gold. Shadows settle into the deep folds, making the stone look as though it is breathing. Each layer of rock represents a chapter of Earth's history. Seas that came and went, deserts that shifted, forests that grew and vanished. What you see in a single glance is millions of years stacked one upon another like pages in an ancient unhurried book. You don't need to read those pages in order to feel their weight. Their presence alone is enough. Geological time invites you not to understand everything, but to soften into acceptance. The canyon doesn't rush to explain itself. The mountain doesn't hurry to reveal its past. The horizon doesn't demand that you approach it. Everything remains as it is, offering calm without urgency. We often live our lives measuring time in minutes, in days, in small units that fit into schedules and plans. But the Earth measures time differently. In the quiet rebound of land after a glacier melts, in the slow widening of a river curve, in the gentle rise of a coastal shelf lifted by unseen tectonic breath. These long rhythms offer perspective. They remind you that even when life feels rushed, the world itself is moving with steady patience. You are part of that world. You are not separate from its rhythms, and even if you feel caught in the quickness of human time, geological time is still beneath your feet, supporting you with its softness and its certainty. Think about the horizon itself. No matter where you stand, mountain peak, valley floor, shoreline, city rooftop, the horizon meets you gently. It never arrives suddenly. It always sits at the same quiet distance, inviting you to look out, but never insisting that you move forward. The horizon is possibility without pressure. It mirrors the way geological time unfolds, slowly, gracefully, revealing itself as you're ready. Imagine now a wide landscape at dusk. The sky fades into soft shades of lavender and gold. The horizon stretches across your view like a peaceful line drawn between earth and sky. You breathe in. The world feels large, but not overwhelming. Timeless, but not distant. You stand not outside geological time, but within it. A moment of living consciousness held gently inside a story billions of years old. Let that realization ease whatever tension you carry. Let it remind you that not everything needs to be solved immediately. That life unfolds at many speeds, and yours does not have to match the fastest one. Tonight, allow the horizon of geological time to settle in your mind. Calm, steady, unhurried. You do not need to chase it. You only need to rest within its quiet presence. The horizon remains, time continues, and you're allowed to breathe in its peace. When you look at the Earth's surface, you see only a single moment, the thin outer skin of a planet shaped by a near-infinite sequence of events. But beneath that surface lie layers upon layers of history, each one resting quietly atop the next like soft blankets folded over time. These geological layers are more than rock. They are memories. They are chapters. They are remnants of worlds that rose and fell long before we existed. And they teach us that everything in nature builds upon what came before, gently, patiently, with intention shaped by time rather than haste. Imagine standing beside a cliff where ancient layers are exposed. The colours vary: warm reds of oxidized iron, soft tans of sandstone, deep blacks of volcanic ash, pale greys of compacted silt. Each band is a moment in Earth's long story, solidified into stone. A river that once flowed here, a desert that once moved with wind, a forest that shed leaves across a fertile floodplain, a volcanic eruption that dusted the land with fine ash. Over millions of years, these moments settled atop one another, compressed gently by the weight of time until they became rock. To the eye, it looks like a stack of thin lines. To the earth, it is an entire autobiography. And what's remarkable is that these layers remain even as the world above changes. Rain falls, wind shifts, roots weave downward seeking water, animals migrate across the land, entire civilizations rise and vanish. But the layers beneath rest quietly, undisturbed by the pace of human time. They are patient, they are constant, they are keepers of long memory. There is a beautiful parallel in this. You too are made of layers of experience, layers of emotion, layers of memory, layers of years that have shaped you, softened you, strengthened you. Some layers feel bright, others feel heavy. Some are made of laughter, others carry quiet sorrow. But together they form the whole of who you are, a stratigraphy of personal history built gently over time. Just like the earth, you don't always see these layers at first glance. They reveal themselves slowly, often when you look inward with softness rather than urgency. And just like geological layers, they support each other. No single moment defines you. No single layer tells your full story. All of them together create the foundation you stand upon. Imagine now peeling back time the way geologists peel back landscapes. Beneath your current day lies the layer of yesterday, its conversations, its intentions, its small joys and quiet challenges. Beneath that lies the layer of last year, experiences that shaped your understanding of the world. Beneath that lie childhood memories, early impressions, the first patterns of who you would become. These layers are not heavy burdens. They are gentle foundations. They remind you that growth is not sudden, it is gradual, built from countless small moments resting atop one another. Even the earth does not erase its layers. It carries them proudly, knowing that each one has a place. Tonight, imagine yourself resting like a geological formation, calm, grounded, supported by layers that hold you in quiet balance. Imagine these layers softening beneath the weight of your breath, becoming steady and warm. Imagine that nothing within you needs to be rushed or fixed immediately. You are not a single moment. You are many moments held together. Layers beneath layers, a whole landscape shaped by time. And like the earth, you are allowed to rest exactly as you are. Still forming, still settling, still becoming. Step into a cave and the world changes. Sound softens, light dims, air cools into a calm that feels older than memory. Caves are some of the quietest places on Earth, sanctuaries carved by water and time, shaped not in years or centuries, but in rhythms measured by drops, drips, and breaths of stone. They are the Earth's inner rooms, holding stillness with gentle, unwavering patience. Inside a cave, every feature you see has taken an unimaginable time to form. A stalactite hanging from the ceiling might grow only a few centimetres every 100 years. A stalagmite rising from the floor may record centuries of dripping water like slow, glistening handwriting. When they finally meet in the middle, forming a column, it represents tens of thousands of years of soft persistence, water-carrying minerals from the surface drop by drop, leaving behind thin layers of calcite that stack into something strong, steady, and impossibly elegant. Caves begin with a movement, but they become places of deep stillness. They start when water seeps into cracks in limestone, dissolving tiny pathways through the rock. Over time, these pathways grow into tunnels, chambers, and vast underground halls. The water withdraws, the stone remains. What was once a flow becomes a silence, and somehow that silence has texture. You can feel it settling around you, cool and reassuring. The air doesn't rush, it rests. Even your footsteps sound softer, as though the cave absorbs each sound and tucks it gently into its walls. In these shadowed spaces, time does not pass the way it does above ground. It feels thicker, slower, like a long exhale suspended in darkness. You become aware of your own breathing, its warmth against the cool air, its rhythm blending with the cave's stillness. The mineral formations around you are sculptures carved not by hands, but by patience. Flowstones drape walls like frozen waterfalls, smooth and wave-like. Helictites twist in delicate, impossible spirals, defying gravity through subtle shifts in airflow and mineral chemistry. Pool crystals shimmer beneath perfectly still water, shaped in silence over ages. Every surface tells the story of water that once moved here. shaping stone gently, then retreating to let silence take over. There is a softness in knowing that these structures grew without hurry. A stalactite does not rush to reach the ground. A column does not force its formation. Each drop of mineral-rich water simply contributes what it can. A micro-layer, a whisper, a moment of change so tiny you would never detect it. And yet these whispers accumulate into forms that last thousands of years. Caves remind us that stillness is not emptiness. It is creation at its slowest, quietest, most deliberate pace. They are places where the Earth's interior breathes in mineral time instead of human time. When you sit in a cave, even if only in your imagination, you feel the steadiness of a world that does not need to hurry. You feel the comfort of a process that takes all the time it needs. Tonight, imagine yourself seated in a vast underground chamber. The air is cool and gentle. A single drop of water falls in the distance, echoing softly. The walls glow faintly with mineral sheen, like the memory of ancient rain. You breathe slowly, matching the cave's deep stillness, and in this moment you understand, even in darkness, creation continues, even in silence. Things grow. Even in stillness, the world moves gently toward new shapes. Let that stillness settle into your thoughts. Let it slow you. Let it soften you. The cave holds its peace, and now it shares that peace with you. As we drift near the end of this quiet journey through the Earth's ancient rhythms, it becomes clear that geology is not just the study of rocks or landscapes. It is the study of beginnings. Every mountain was once molten. Every grain of sand was once part of something larger. Every crystal, every fossil, every smooth river stone carries a memory of its origin woven gently into its structure. And all these beginnings echo a deeper truth. Nothing is truly finished. Everything is always returning to something, transforming into something, becoming something new in its own unhurried time. When we look at the Earth long enough, we begin to see cycles instead of endings. Lava cools into basalt, basalt crumbles into soil, soil feeds forests, forests fall and become sediment, sediment compresses into stone, stone melts again into magma, a circle without urgency, a beginning hidden inside every conclusion. In this rhythm, the Earth is always starting over. Think of the first oceans forming, steam rising from the young planet, condensing into clouds, falling as rain for thousands of years until basins filled with the earliest water. From that water came minerals, life, and the long cascade of evolution. Or the first mountains rising, heat pushing upward, crust folding into peaks that would someday crumble back into grains carried by wind. Or the first crystals forming in the darkness below, atoms finding their perfect places, arranging themselves into patient geometries. All of these beginnings still live within the Earth. They are not gone. They simply rest beneath the layers of time, waiting to be noticed. And so, when we speak of returning to the beginning, we are not speaking of going backward. We are speaking of remembering that beginnings are everywhere. Every breath you take is a beginning. Every night you fall asleep, your mind rests in a space where renewal quietly begins. In geology, beginnings are gentle. They do not burst onto the scene with noise or speed. They emerge slowly. The first crack in cooling lava, the first layer of silt in a quiet lake, the first drop of water carving a future canyon. They unfold without announcement. They whisper themselves into being. And in your life, beginnings often arrive the same way. A small thought, a subtle shift in feeling, a quiet moment of clarity, a sense of easing that arrives without explanation. Sometimes we recognize these beginnings only later, when we look back with softened eyes. Tonight, imagine the Earth billions of years ago, cooling, forming, shifting, breathing in slow pulses. The sky is dark, the surface is molten, and yet already The seeds of every future mountain, river, desert, ocean, forest, and crystal lie hidden in that early heat. Everything begins before it can be seen. Everything starts quietly, even you. And just as the earth has renewed itself again and again, you're allowed the same grace. You're allowed to shed old layers. You're allowed to soften into change. You're allowed to rest and let new beginnings form gently without pressure. Feel the weight of the day loosen. Feel the warmth of the planet beneath you. Feel yourself settling into the same slow rhythm that shapes stone, water, wind, and time. Returning to the beginning is not about going back. It is about recognizing that you too are always becoming, always forming, always finding your way into a new shape. Let that truth settle into your breath. Let it wrap you in quiet. Let it guide you softly toward rest. As we reach the end of this quiet geological journey, it's time to return gently to the question that drifted into the earliest moments of this story. The question of how the earth, with all its slow movements and ancient rhythms, offers us a kind of peace we often forget to feel. We asked, what does it mean to rest in a world shaped by time so vast, so patient, so endlessly unfolding? And now, after wandering through mountains forming inch by inch, glaciers carving valleys in silence, crystals growing in darkness, caves shaping themselves drop by drop, and continents drifting with the softness of a long inhale, the answer becomes clearer. Resting is not the absence of movement, it is the acceptance of gentle movement. It is trusting the slow processes around you. It is allowing yourself to be shaped by time rather than pressured by it. The earth is always changing, yet it is never in a hurry. And tonight, you are part of that same rhythm. Imagine yourself lying on quiet ground, maybe on warm soil, or on cool stone, or on soft grass beneath a slowly fading sky. Beneath you lies the entire geological story of the planet. Ancient seas turned to stone, volcanic fire cooled into smooth basalt, forests captured in petrified silence, countless layers stacked like memories the earth carries gently through time. And in this moment, all of that vast history is holding you without effort. The ground beneath you doesn't rush. It doesn't demand anything. It simply supports you, the way it has supported everything that ever lived. The more you breathe, the more you feel its calm reaching upward, a quiet steadiness that meets you without urgency. You can almost sense the slow warmth rising from deep within the mantle, the soft hum of the planet's vibration, the gentle lift and fall of the earth tide beneath your resting body. You realize that the earth has been practicing peace for billions of years, and you are allowed to borrow that peace whenever you need it. Let your breath fall into the same rhythm, slow, even, deep. Let your mind soften the way mountains soften under wind. Let your thoughts settle like sediment drifting to the bottom of a still lake. Let your body feel heavy the way stones feel heavy after rain. Grounded, steady, perfectly at rest. Tonight, you're not separate from the planet's old, patient story. You're one quiet chapter within it. Your heartbeat is a brief, beautiful echo of deep time. Your thoughts are small ripples on a surface shaped by ancient forces. Your presence, your breathing, your resting, all of it fits naturally into the Earth's gentle design. Nothing is required of you now. No decisions, no effort, no movement. You have travelled through ages of stone and oceans of silence. You have drifted alongside mountains and molten cores, glaciers and crystals, dunes and caves. And now, at the end of this journey, the earth invites you to rest the way it rests. Slowly, deeply, without pressure. Let yourself drift. Let yourself settle. Let yourself sink into the comfort of knowing that you are held by something ancient and endlessly patient. The earth has carried life for billions of years. Tonight it carries you. Everything is safe. Everything is quiet, everything is slow, and as your breath becomes softer, as your thoughts fade into the background, as sleep drifts closer like a rising tide, you can let go fully now, into the same gentle rhythm that shapes the world. Everything flows. Sleep in that motion.